What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another amazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was sent to the Ben 10 universe? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. In a town on a planet known as Earth called Bellwood, a married couple was sitting at a bench at a park watching families go by when the wife suddenly said, "I am sorry Carl, I will not be able to give you the family that we both want." "Don't worry about it Sandra, there are other ways to form a family," Carl said, holding his wife close. Sandra was about to say something when a portal opened up and Sandra asked, "Carl, what's going in?" "I don't know, but my father might know," Carl said, then went to pick up his phone. As Carl was grabbing his phone, Sandra was watching the portal and saw something coming out of it and said, "Carl, wait, something is coming though." The thing? Carl turned to the portal and saw a boy around 5 coming though, and the moment the kid hit the ground the portal closed and Sandra went to check the boy. The gasp as the boy was covered in deep cuts, then said, "Dear, forget our father for the moment, call an ambulance, the boy need medical treatment now," which the husband did. After an hour, the couple who'd talked about what happened was now in a waiting room at the hospital waiting for news about the boy they found when a doctor walked in and said, "Mr. and Mrs. Tennyson." Which the two got up. The doc said, "Follow me," and the duo followed the doctor. Once they was where the boy was, he said, "I have to say the boy is a fighter." "What do you mean?" Sandra asked. "I mean the boy has lost so much blood he shouldn't even be alive," the doctor replied. "That's great," Carl said, then upon looking at the doctor's face he asked, "What's the problem?" "While he is a fighter, I fear he won't survive the next hour unless he has a blood transfusion," the doctor said. "What's his blood type?" Carl asked. "The boy's blood type is unknown," the doctor said, shocking the couple. "That is a problem, having an unknown blood type," Sandra said, then turns to the doctor and asked, "What if we volunteered to give blood?" "I would advise against it as we don't know what will happen," the doctor said, making Sandra frown. "So why tell us this?" Carl asked. "It's to inform you to prepare for the worst," the doctor said. "Give me a moment," Carl said, then left the building and pulled out his phone and called his father. After the phone rang a few times, then he heard a voice asked, "Hello." "Hey Dad, are you busy?" Carl asked. "I am. There was a strange power source an hour ago," the father replied. "Wait, a power source an hour ago? Do you have a location for it?" Carl asked. "We do," the man replied. "Was it at Bellwood National Park?" Carl asked. "How do you know that?" the man asked. "Because me and Sandra was there an hour ago and know what you want about," Carl said before telling his father what happened and why they were there. There was a few moments of silence before the father said, "I am so sorry, you and Sandra, so what do you want to do?" Carl thinks about it then said, "Me and Sandra want to save the boy, seeing as the portal appeared in front of me and Sandra when we was at our lowest. It's got to be a sign." "You're properly right about that, we will be there in a few minutes," the father said before hanging up. Carl puts his phone in his pocket, then walked back into the hospital and went to his wife, then said, "Hey honey, how are you doing?" "Just wish I can do something to save the boy," Sandra said. "There might be, seeing as I just called my father, seeing as he knows more about this sort of stuff," Carl said. "You're right," Sandra said. 10 minutes after Carl phoned his father when suddenly a group of people led by a man that was in his early 50s walked in and the head of the hospital met them and said, "I am the head of the hospital, what can I do for you?" Lead man said, "Greeting, I am Max Tennyson and I hear that you have a patient with a unique blood type." "We do," the hospital head replied. "Great, can you hand him over, as we have been looking for him for a few months," Max said. "We can, but you must know that boy will not survive the hour," the head said. "Let us handle that," Max said. The head nods, then said, "Very well," then instructed the staff to release the boy. Half an hour later, the team Sandra, Carl and the boy are in a secret base in the town when Max walked up to the married couple and said, "I know you two don't like it here, but I thank you for coming. We might not like this part of the world, Dad, but if it means the boy can be saved then so be it," Carl said. "So what can you tell us about the boy?" Sandra said. "That's the thing, we don't know. We know that he is human, but that's it," Max said, shocking the married couple. "Is that even possible?" Sandra asked. "It appears so," Max said, then in a serious tone said, "But good news, we know he will accept any and all blood types, and seeing you found him, we would like to ask if you will be the blood donor." "We talk about it, and we decided for Carl to do it," Sandra said. "Very well," Max said, then turns to his son, then said, "Follow me." Once the transfusion was done, the boy was resting and the boy's body was changing. Inside Naruto's mind, a fox with 9 tails trapped in a cage, and it was resting and thought, "Thank Kami, I managed to pull that dimensional jutsu." When suddenly the seal begins to break, making the fox jolt awake as it watches, then sees a pure white humanoid being radiating power flying in front of him. Then the fox asked, "Who and what are you?" "I don't know the answer to the questions," the being said. "I see there is more to this universe," the fox said. Then it inspects the being, then said, "You seem to be a being that is connected to the elements." "What does that mean?" the being asked. "No clue, but I don't sense Naruto's chakra anymore," the fox said. "Well, there was an egg of some sort near where I came aware," the being said, holding a dark purple egg. The fox once again inspects the egg, then looks at the other being, then said, "I see." "You see what?" the being said. "You are Naruto's chakra given form thanks to what you are holding, though he will need to know about chakra and what it's capable of," the fox said. "So what do we do now?" the being said. "We have to wait until he calls upon mine or your power," the fox said. "So what do we do until then?" the being asked. "We watch how Naruto life plays out," the fox replied, then thought, "I am not what I used to be, now wonder what I am," to the boy, then it went to sleep. The next day Naruto woke up around noon, and the first thing he noticed, he was in hospital room and thought, "It looks like I am in a hospital room again, wonder if the doctors and nurses tried to poison me again." Then he quickly pulled all the wires and tubes and then exited the room, and upon noticing that he wasn't in the hospital he knew, then said, "Where am I?" Then he sees a figure coming down the hall, then went the other way. A few seconds later the man was revealed to be a doctor, opened the door to the boy's room, and upon seeing the bed was empty, then he said, "What, how is it possible the kid shouldn't be awake, judging how serious his injuries were?" Then he pulled out a radio, then said, "This is Dr. Pharma calling all Plumer personnel, the boy is on the loose." "What do you mean, Dr. Pharma?" Max said over the radio. "I mean, sir, I went to check up on to see if there was any change, but the bed is empty," Pharma said. "But you said he will be out for a while," Max said. "That's what I thought," Pharma said. "We can wonder how he was able to wake up later, we need to find the boy. So all personnel keep an eye out for a 5-year-old boy with red hair, and if you find him, approach him calmly," Max said. After many hours of looking, no one has seen the boy, and Max wondered, "How is it that no one has seen a 5-year-old boy since noon?" Not noticing the boy was behind. "I don't know, why not ask him yourself?" the boy replied, making Max jump. Max turned to face the boy and said, "How did you get in here?" Which the boy just pointed up, and when the older man looked up he said, "You have got to be kidding, you used the ventilation system to keep out of sight." Then he turned back to the boy and asked, "I am Max Tennyson, and what is your name?" "Naruto Uzumaki," Naruto replied. "So he comes from a world that's similar to Japan," Max thought. Then he asked, "So Naruto, why did you leave your hospital room?" Then Naruto's poster changed, and he thought, bad experiences with hospitals. "What, and have try and poison me again?" "No thank you," Naruto replied. "I see he doesn't know he's on another world, maybe universe, seeing as his DNA is saying he is human but he came out of a portal," Max thought. "So now that you are all better, let's find a way to get you home, bet your parents are worried about." "I doubt that, seeing as I don't know who they are," Naruto said. "What happened to them?" Max asked. "Don't know, Gigi said they died the night I was born and nothing else," Naruto replied. "So you're an orphan?" Max said. "I am, and I don't want your pity. I have survived 5 years on my own, seeing as no one wants me and those that do show an interest only to betray me," Naruto said. "Well, that's good news for Carl and Sandra, but we'll have to let them know that there will be some trust issues at the start," Max thought. Then he kneels down and looks at Naruto, then asked, "Answer honestly, do you want to be a part of a family?" "Whether I do or not doesn't matter, they will betray me in the end," Naruto said sadly. "And what if I told you that I know a married couple that wants a child but can't have any?" Max said, and all Naruto did as a reply was walked out the door, and the moment the door closed Max let out a sigh, then said, "This is going to be difficult." Then he too walks out the door and started to look for his son and daughter-in-law. As soon as he found the duo, Carl asked, "Dad, what's going on?" They said the boy is missing. "You can say that the boy is one stealthy kid, but I need to have a word with you too," Max said. "About what?" Sandra asked. "About Naruto the boy," Max replied. "How do you know his name?" Carl asked. "Because I just spoke with him, and I think he is trying leave Plumber's HQ Bellwood branch," Max said. "What makes you think that, Dad?" Carl asked. "Because 1, he doesn't know he is on another world, and 2, he has had bad experience when it comes to hospitals," Max replied. Do you think it has something to do with the fact that he came out of the thing like that? Sandra asked. I do, but do have good news, he is an orphan, Max said. Really, that's great, Sandra said. Now before you two get ahead, there is something that you should know, Max stated. What would that be? Carl asked. In the brief chat I had with him, I believe he has trust issues, Max said. Please tell me too, joking, Sandra asked. I'm afraid not, Sandra, because of the fact that the people that are supposed to help you get better tried to poison him, and that anyone that takes an interest in him always betrays him, Max said. I see, well, that will cause kids to have trust issues, Sandra said sadly. I agree, Carl agreeing. So do you still want to try and become Naruto's parents, Max said. Even more, knowing Naruto has had bad experiences, Carl said. Good, now just need to get you to Naruto and hope he will give you a chance at being his parents, Max said. As the trio was leaving, Max got a call over the radio saying, Plumber Head Max, I have found the boy. That's great, here is he? Max asked. Well, you see, he is with the Anubian Basker, replied the plumber. Why is he in there? Max asked. Well, when we first got there, he was playing with her, the plumber said. There is a problem, no isn't there? Max said. Yes, one of the newer recruits thought the boy was in danger and shot the Basker, then he went berserk and is now attacking any and everyone that get near, the plumber said. Properly thinks that he lost his new friend, Max thought, then said, all right, we are on our way. Then he turned to his family and said, well, at least we know where the boy is. Then he leads them to where the Anubian Basker was. When the trio got to where the Anubian Basker, they saw Naruto was in with a dog-like creature. Then Max said as he slowly approached Naruto, who seemed to be more fox-like, easy there son, we don't mean to hurt you and the dog isn't dead. Naruto looks at Max, then said with Kurama's voice, I know that, Max, but Naruto doesn't. But aren't you Naruto? Max asked. That's complicated, which I or Naruto will tell you someday after I tell him, but for now think of me as a split personality to Naruto, Kurama said. I see, can we know your name, and can you tell us about the Naruto even a little bit? Max said. Kurama looks at everyone in the room with his glance ending with Sandra as he senses depression rolling of her and Carl as it was his blood that had changed Naruto, then said, my name I will tell you, only you, her and him, and points to Carl and Sandra. Max looks toward his son and daughter-in-law, then said, will you attack us as I do send everyone out? Kurama shakes his head and says, I will not unless you attack me first, but if it makes you feel safer then they can wait right by the closed door waiting for one of you three to shout. Okay, Max said before sending the plumbers outside who waited by the door. Then Max said, why do you want them in here as well? Well, the woman, I feel depression rolling off of her, Kurama said. Well, I was told something bad yesterday and it will take time to get over it, Sandra said. Oh, so they are couple that you mentioned to Naruto before he left the room, Kurama said. You are a smart one, and yes, they are, Max said. Well, I am 1,000 years old, Kurama said. What, but you just said that you are a split personality of Naruto, Carl said. No, I said think of me as one, or simpler terms, I am basically his animal spirit animal, Kurama said. Okay, that makes things simple, but why did you want me here as well? Carl asked. Because that transfusion you gave Naruto is changing him, Kurama said. What do you mean by that? Carl asked. Well, for starters, I am not what I once was, I am now Naruto's instincts, and that it also gave form to an inner power that Naruto had, and let's not forget there is a dark purple egg in as well, Kurama said. Shocking both Carl and Max, and the former turns to his father and said, Dad, do you think? No, it's impossible, Max said. What's impossible? Kurama asked. Carl turns to Naruto, Kurama, and said, I might be classed as a human while my father is human, my mother however is an alien, a race called Anodite, and they are a race made of pure energy. So what the trait skipped you? Kurama asked. You could say that, Carl said. Well, I have known Naruto his whole life, and let me say this, never underestimate Naruto, things like impossible doesn't exist, Kurama said, knowing what Naruto is capable of. Now that we have answered your question, can you answer ours? Max said. I can, but first can I tell you about Naruto, because I get the feeling that your questions is connected to how Naruto got here, Kurama said, and when the trio nodded, and with that Kurama began to tell them what he was, the universe that Naruto came from, and what the power he mentioned how Naruto came to the universe as, and the most importantly Naruto's past. Once Kurama was done, Sandra was in tears, and Max said, well, now I know why Naruto seemed to have trust issues, so will you try and convince Naruto to give Carl and Sandra a chance? Kurama thinks about it and says, I will try seeing as he at my cage, but for the best chance for that let him keep the dog, and point to the Anubian Basker. I will try and get him to be the owner of the Anubian Basker, Max said, and with a nod Kurama closed his eyes and he then collapsed with a light thud. It's been 6 years since Naruto had come through the portal, and thanks to Kurama the power from his chakra anodite form who he named Rava, he is now able to travel to and from his home universe when he wants, but perverse being with his adopted parents, but goes there from time to time, and on a few time took Carl and Sandra, who later learned from a man that Naruto saw as a grandfather named Hiruzen, who Naruto's parents are, but promised to keep it a secret from Naruto until they think he is ready, and was given 3 letters and even told him so, as well as that he is a last member of a clan he will need multiple lovers. Right now he is at school waiting for the bell to ring, and the moment it does the teacher dismissed the class, and as the students was leaving, she said, "Now I want you all have a great holiday." When Naruto got outside he saw 2 students, one was taller than the other and they was both picking on a boy that was smaller than the smaller of the 2 bullies. The taller bully had a dark skin tone and his hair and eyebrows were all black. He also has a football-shaped head with large ears, and the other had unkempt, brown hair and brown eyebrows and was wearing round-shaped glasses that was light blue. Then Naruto said, "Hey Tweedledee and Tweedledum, leave the boy be." "What did you say?" the tall boy asked. "You heard me, Cash," Naruto said. Then as the 2 bullies was about to start picking on Naruto, they heard a growl. The 4 boys looked to where the growling from and saw a dog that was pure black. The Cash said, "Fine, come on JT." Then the 2 boys left. Naruto turns to the DG who had stopped growling and said, "What are you doing here midnight?" "I brought her," Max said from an old RV. Naruto looks to Max surprised, then said, "Grandpa, what are you doing here? I thought you was picking me up at home." Then he walked over to the RV with Midnight following behind. "Well, that was the plan, but I want to get to the campsite by night, and also, I have talked to Carl and Sandra, and they think you are ready for these," Max replied, holding up the letters. "Well, what are we waiting for? Let's get going," Naruto said before noticed a girl with green eyes and short red hair held by a blue hairclip and wore sapphire earrings, an elbow-length blue raglan shirt with a cat logo. Then he said, "Hey Gwen, I take it you're coming as well." "Unfortunately, someone managed to convince my mum that coming with you this summer will be a great experience," Gwen replied. "I am sure it will be," Naruto said. "Well, sport with your luck, you will no doubt get into a fair bit of trouble," Max said before starting driving to the campsite. "Well, that might be true. Then when that starts, then this summer is going to be a blast," Naruto said. "You are insane," Gwen said. "You think so because the voices in my head tell me otherwise," Naruto asked, getting a light chuckle from Kurama and Rava. "Don't freak her out, Naruto," Max said, knowing about Kurama and Rava. Naruto ignored Max as he turned to Gwen. "So what was you going to do this summer before Grandpa convinced Aunt Natalie to make you come?" "Well, if you must know, I had my vacation planned out," Gwen said as she pulls out a color-coded sheet, then continued, "I color-coded each activity. So I don't do the same thing 2 days in a row, but now I am with my carefree adopted cousin camping for the next 3 months. Well, I am more of a fox," Naruto said before petting Midnight and said, "Isn't that right, girl?" causing Midnight to bark. "How come Aunt and Uncle let you have a dog while my parents won't let me have a cat?" Gwen said. "She is special case," Naruto said. "Is that true, Grandpa?" Gwen asked. "Yeah, it's true, as I was with Carl and Sandra just before they adopted Naruto, and Midnight was what allowed Naruto to open up," Max replied, knowing it was the start of Naruto healing from the trauma he got from his home universe and to opening up. After a while Naruto, Max and Gwen was at the campsite when Max walked out of the RV with a bowl of live worms, then said as he placed the bowl on a picnic table, "Dinner's ready." Both Naruto and Gwen looked at the worms, making Naruto to go pale as Gwen asked, "Okay, what are we having for dinner?" "Marinated mealworms, they are hard to find in the States," Max replied. "Yeah, because most people won't eat mealworms," Gwen said. "You know, in some places this is a delicacy," Max said. "Well, it is better to what I used to eat before being adopted," Naruto said as he shakenly picked a few worms and ate them. Max looked at the preteen boy with a sad look as he remembered the chat he had with Hiruzen, while Gwen looked at Naruto with a questionable look. Max looks at Gwen and asked, "If this doesn't suit you, I have smoked sheep's tongue in the fridge," which got a belch from Gwen. Gwen looked at Naruto to see him pale, then she asked, "Naruto, are you okay? You look a bit pale." Naruto looks at Gwen then said, "Yeah, I am fine, but I need to go." Then he heads into the wood in a rush. Should we go after him, Grandpa? Gwen asked as it was rare to see Naruto down. No, it's my fault he is like this, Max said. What do you mean? Gwen asked. Well, I supposed you are old enough to know Naruto's backstory, Max said. Does this have to do with midnight? Gwen asked. It does, and me, Carl and Sandra all agreed not to tell anyone other than the necessary people, Max said before telling Gwen almost everything about Naruto minus he is from another universe and everything he know about said universe as well as Midnight being an alien dog. Meanwhile, Naruto was wandering around while playing fetch with his dog to calm down when he heard Kurama say, "That's it, kid, do something to keep your mind from having a panic." After a few more minutes of play with Midnight, Naruto noticed something in the sky and said, "Cool, a shooting star," Naruto said. Then the shooting star did something that shocked Naruto, Kurama and Rava. Then Naruto said, "What the?" before the star landed right in front of him and the force of the impact made Naruto and Midnight go flying, but Naruto managed to grab the dog so she wouldn't get hurt once. Naruto gained his bearings. Midnight was nudging him while Kurama and Rava was asking him, "Naruto, are you okay?" Naruto struggles to sit up and groans, "I am fine, I think." Then he pets Midnight to get her to stop, then asked, "Also, since when do stars turn on midair like that?" "I don't think that was a star, Naruto," Rava said. "Well, if it's not, then let's see what it was," Naruto said before standing up and heads to the crater. Upon seeing the thing he asked, "I don't think that satellite-looking thing is Earth tech." "What gave you that impression?" Kurama asked. "Well, the thing is too smooth to be Earth and looks like a pod for transporting things," Naruto replied. "So are you going to stand there looking at it or are you going to see what it's holding?" Kurama said. "Well, if you give me a minute I will," Naruto said before petting Midnight and said, "Stay, girl," before jumping into the crater. Then the pod opened to reveal a device that looked like a large wristwatch with a wide band, primarily black and gray in color. It also had a dark gray faceplate in the middle that had a green hourglass shape on it. Then he asked, "No one particular, huh? Is that a watch? What is a watch doing inside?" "Well, consider that this might be alien tech, it might not be watch," Rava said. "True," Naruto said before he goes over to the pod and goes to grab the watch, but the watch just jumped and attached itself to Naruto, making the boy stumble back and shouted, "What the?" Kurama started to laugh, then said, "Well, looks like you just got your wish, kid, now you have an alien watch." "Yeah, but what's it for?" Naruto said as he fiddled with it before pushing a button and the faceplate popped out. Then the hourglass signia became a diamond and showed a silhouette of a figure. Then he asked, "Cool, so what do you think? Should I push the faceplate down and see what happens?" "Do it," both Kurama and Rava said at the same time. "Alright, let's do this," Naruto said before pushing the faceplate down, and the moment the faceplate was back in its original place the watch sank into Naruto's sink and rock began to form from where the watch sank into Naruto, and the moment his entire body was covered in rock a fire ignited, making the body look like a being made of living lava rock. Then he said, "Cool, I wonder if I will feel this when I am able to use your whole power, Rava." "Who knows," Rava said. "Well, looks like we know what this watch does," Kurama said. "Right, wonder what the maker planned when they created this thing," Naruto wondered. Then he heard Midnight whining, then he subconsciously kneeled down and pet her while saying, "It's okay, girl, I am fine." Then when he realized what he was doing he stopped and said as he stumbled unknowingly shot a fireball into the woods, "What was I doing?" Then he noticed that his dog didn't have a mark on her, then said, "Oh, thank Kami, looks like your type are resistance to heat of sorts." Then he noticed that he had started a fire and begins to panic as he tries to put it out, then said, "It's not working." "Well, what did you think would happen? You are a literal walking talking fireball," Kurama said. Back at the campsite, Gwen was coming out of the RV and saw some smoke and asked, "What's that?" Max looks at where Gwen was looking, then said, "Looks like the start of a forest fire. We better let the rangers know, but it most likely some fool messing around with something they aren't supposed to." Then there was a moment of silence before they both said, "Naruto." Max then went into a box and pulls out 2 fire extinguishers and passed one to Gwen and said, "You better take this." Then they both ran into the forest. Back with Naruto, who was still trying to put the forest fire out, said if this wasn't happening this would be so cool. After a few minutes he was sprayed by someone, then thought, "That's just great, someone to think I am a monster." Then as he turns to see Gwen he said, "Thank Kami, it's just you." Then Gwen screamed before starting to hit Naruto with the fire extinguisher, then sprays him again while the transformed teen says, "Hey." Then he starts to cough. "I don't know what you are, but if you know what's good for you better stay down," Gwen said while aiming the fire extinguisher nozzle at him. What to do, Naruto thought. Hey kid, see if you can set her trainer on fire, Kurama said. Knowing what the nine-tailed fox was talking about, Naruto gained a mischievous smirk, then holds a hand out and opened. Then one of Gwen's trainers light up, then she screamed as she hopped away, making Naruto and Kurama. Then Naruto, though, no doubt I will pay for that when she realized who I am. You know it, but was it worth it? Rava asked, also finding it funny a little. Oh yeah, it was, Naruto thought back before standing back up. Gwen, who managed to stop hopping around, sprayed her trainer, then looked at Naruto and said, "You asked for it?" Then she heard a growl, then she turned to see Midnight, then said, "Midnight, what are you doing here and where is Naruto?" Then she noticed that the dog was growling at her, then thought, the only time she growls at anyone is when Naruto is attacked. Then she turns to Naruto and asked, "Is that you, Naruto? What happened?" Then Naruto begins to tell Gwen what happened. Before Gwen could say anything, they heard Max say, "Gwen, are you alright?" Then when he noticed transformed Naruto, he said, why is there a pyronite here?" "So that's what I am, cool," Naruto said, looking at himself before Gwen could say anything. Then he gains a thoughtful look, then said, "Now I need a name for this form." Then he turned to Midnight and asked, "What do you think, girl? Got any good names?" And Midnight barked. Realizing who the pyronite was, Max said, "Naruto, what happened to you?" Gwen spoke before Naruto, "Not sure if you remember, but there is a big forest fire going on." "Oh right," Naruto said before turning to Max as he knew what he can in this form, then asked, "So got anything this guy can do?" "Yeah, pyronite can absorb fire, but can you do it?" Max said. "Well, I can try, but best to think of another plan," Naruto said before walking away a bit. The moment Naruto was far enough, he heard Kurama say, "Alright kid, if you listen to me you might be able to absorb the fire. You ready?" And with a nod from Naruto, the Nine Tails said, "Alright, close your eyes and feel around you, feel the fire, and then with your will pull the fire in." Then Naruto did as instructed. Then after a few moments the fire was being pulled into him. Then after a few seconds the fire was put out. Then Naruto said, "Well, that takes care of that." Then he turns to his family, then said, "And how about I tell you what happened at the RV?" "He is right, the park ranger should be here any moment now," Max said. Then the trio left the area, just missing the park ranger. Back at the RV, the trio was now sitting around the campfire while roasting marshmallows, or in Naruto's case just eating them, while Naruto told them what happened. Then Max said, "So this watch-like device jumped up and clamped onto your wrist?" "Well yeah, and when you say it like that it sounds something a sci-fi maniac would think of," Naruto said. "I believe you, Naruto, seeing as this is just your luck at play," Max said. "Thanks Grandpa," Naruto said. "So do you think he will stay a monster forever?" Gwen asked. "He isn't a monster, he is an alien," Max said. "Come on Grandpa, aliens don't exist," Gwen said, not believing Max. "Actually they do, Gwen, or did you forget that Grandpa called me a pyronite before realizing it was me? And also there is Midnight," Naruto said, pointing at the dog who was gnawing at a bone he had brought with him. "What about her?" Gwen asked. "Well, she is an alien dog," Naruto said, then turned to Max, then said, "Grandpa, can you deactivate her collar?" Then before Max could do anything there was a beeping sound and the dial on Naruto's chest was flashing red. Then on a red flash Naruto was back to normal. Then he said, thing must have a timer on it." Then he goes over to Midnight, then deactivated her collar, then waits a few minutes to make sure Gwen doesn't say that she was hallucinating, then reactivates the collar. Then he turns to Max, then asked, "So what's next?" "First, I need to apologize to you, Naruto," Max said. "For what?" Naruto asked. "For almost setting you back after you have recovered," Max said. "It's fine Grandpa, we all make mistakes," Naruto said after looking at Max to see his guilty expression. "Thank you Naruto," Max said, feeling relieved, then goes to say, "Now I am going to inspect the crash site, so in the meantime you two behave." Then he hands Naruto the letters from his birth parents, then said, "Here, I was going to give you these after dinner, but now seems to be a good time, oh, and don't mess with." "Thanks Grandpa," Naruto said as he takes the letters. Then Max left the area. Then Naruto started to read the letters. Then once he was done, he thought, "So my birth parents did love me and died because you killed Kurama." "Aye they did, and I am sorry for taking them away from you kid," Kurama said. "I know you are sorry seeing as you brought me here, and I am thankful for it," Naruto thought. "He is right Kurama, plus you said that you didn't attack the village with free will," Rava said. "I might have said this before, but I will say it again, you are too good for your old universe," Kurama said. "Well, I just wish something interesting will happen," Naruto thought. "Be careful what you wish for," Kurama said before thinking of a way to distract Naruto, then said, "Hey kid, why don't you try and figure out how the watch works?" Then he noticed something was different, then thought, now why does it seem different around here? "Now that's an idea," Naruto said before standing up and putting the letters in a safe place. Then he started to fidget with the watch. After a quarter of an hour had gone by before Naruto said, "Now I get how it works." Then Gwen appeared by saying, "Got ya," making Naruto jump a bit. Then they both laughed before Naruto went back to fiddling with the device. Then she said, "You know Grandpa said not to mess with that thing." "I know, but me and the others want to know how this thing works, and I think I have figured it out," Naruto said, still fiddling with the watch. "If you say so," Gwen said. Then she asked, "So what was it like being the alien?" "Can't really tell ya, except that I was me, but at the same time I wasn't me," Naruto said before pushing a button. Then said, "Nice, so let's see what we have here," looking at the dial to see the silhouette of the magma alien. "I would do that," Gwen said, worried. "I'm sure it will be fine," Naruto said as he turned the dial. The next one seemed to be a bug-type alien followed by a raptor-looking one. As Naruto turned the dial once again, then he heard Kurama say, "Naruto, use the watch again." Naruto sat up straight in surprise, then thought, tilting his head a little in confusion, "Why?" "Because I believe you have a blood-type Kekkei Genkei," Kurama thought. "Really, what does it do?" Naruto asked. "Who are you talking to, Naruto?" Gwen asked. "If I am right, then it's luck that Rouge chick from X-Evolution cartoon you watched but with DNA, Kurama said. "If your theory is true, is that the reason that I got Rava and Anodite?" Naruto thought. "Yes, but unlike them these will be on a weaker scale," Kurama replied. "What does that mean?" Naruto thought. "Because if heat blast you are now like a firebender from Avatar, or you are able to regulate your body temperature to withstand all sorts of locations," Kurama said. "Sweet," Naruto said, then thought, "So what is heat blast?" "Your pyronite form," Kurama said. "Oh, so does that mean I have a walking talking volcano in my head?" Naruto said. "No, Rava is the combination of your and my chakra and the power of the anodite, and as for the anodite, once it hatches it will become one with you," Kurama said. "Cool, so let's test that theory," Naruto said before pushing the dial down, and he turns into animal-type alien with no eye and he roars a bit. Then Gwen got in front of him, then said, she waved a hand in front of Naruto, "This one is useless seeing as this one doesn't have eyes." Then she suddenly stopped and looked at her roasting stick with a mischievous look before walking behind Naruto. Then she raised the stick and was going to strike Naruto. Unknown to Gwen the beast, Naruto had gills on the side of his neck and noticed that she was going to swing at him, and then at the last minute jumped, making Gwen, who used her whole might, to fall on the ground and the stick flung away. Naruto landed on the RV and seemed to be look at his cousin and then seemed to be laughing as Gwen stood up and she said, "Okay, looks like this alien isn't completely useless." Naruto then lands in front of Gwen, then she said, "2 words, breath mint." Then Naruto turned and with his hind legs swiped some dirt at Gwen before jumping into the woods, making Gwen to shout out something. As Naruto was swinging around the forest, he stopped on a branch and noticed something was near before jumping as a laser beam hit the spot he was just at, and a strange-looking drone begins to follow him. For a few minutes the drone loses sight of Naruto as he was in a tree, then as it flies away he climbs the tree, then jumps up and lands on the drone. Then he starts to destroy the drone as the drone tries to get Naruto of. Then as the drone was flying toward a cliff he ripped the head of. Then he noticed where the drone was going as the symbol began to flash red and the beeping sound was heard. Then he jumps off of the drone, then turns back as soon as he landed in a bush. Then as he stands up and look at the place the drone crashed into, he said, "That was cool." Then as he turned around he sees another drone, then said, "Oh come on." Kurama, who was laughing, said as the android was charging a gun, "Well, you did say you wanted some excitement." "I know I said that, but this isn't what I meant," Naruto said. Then he was about to use his chakra when all of a sudden, a shovel whacked the drone. Naruto looked to see Gwen holding the shovel and she said, "Back off Sparky, no one is going to hurt my cousin but me." "Ah, if I didn't know any better, you do care about me," Naruto said. "Well, you are family now, let's get back to the rust bucket," Gwen said as the drone sparked and caught on fire, making the 2 preteens to run before the drone explode. Once back at the RV they told Max what happened. Then he said, "I was afraid you would become popular with that thing, which was why I asked you not to mess with it until we know what it is." "Sorry Grandpa, but did you expect me to not find out what it does?" Also Kurama wanted to see something, Naruto said. "Well, you do have a point there. Also, what did Kurama want?" Max said. "Before you answer, can I ask a question?" Gwen asked. Both Naruto and Max looked at Gwen and the latter looked at Naruto as if asking a question which Naruto caught and nodded in return. Then Max turned back to Gun and said, "You know what I told you about Naruto earlier? You mean that Naruto is from another universe and that he was treated badly and is dealing WTH some tumor," Gwen said. "Yeah, well, I didn't tell you everything and even now I won't tell you everything, but in Naruto universe there are 9 creatures KNWN as tailed beasts similar some of the Japanese folklore, and these creatures are sealed in to people and they become a Jinchuriki and they are in well like and for 5 years Naruto, well, some of the things we have been told, I don't think there is any ASS Asiniden trick left to pull on Naruto." "Wait, you don't mean," Gwen said in shock. "Yeah, Naruto's village have been trying to kill Naruto from the day he was born, which is why he was given midnight to help him heal," Max said. "And so who is Kurama?" Gwen asked. "Kurama is one of the tailed beasts, the 9-tailed fox, and my parents was killed by the fox, but he feels sorry about what my life was until he put me here," Naruto said to Gwen. Then he turned to Max then said, "A fet, I had read the letters Kurama noticed something and looked into it and he said that I might have a Kekkei Genkai. A bloodline," Max said. Naruto nods then said, "He that with every new transformation I do and in my base form will gain a small portion of their abilities." "What does that mean?" Gwen asked. "Kurama thinks because of the pyronite I am like a firebender and might have some sort of sonar from wild mud," Naruto said. "So have you learned to use it?" Max asked. "Well, I am sure there is more settings to it, but I know how to use it," Naruto said. Before anyone could say anything, Naruto in the RVA was saying that there was a robot attack. Then Naruto said, "That sound like the drones that attacked me, they must be after the watch." Then he stands up then said, "Might as well help them." "So what do you plan to do, Naruto?" Gwen asked. "How else by using that thing that they want?" Naruto replied as he holds the watch up. "He does have a pint there," Max said. Then they left the RV. As the 3 family members and Midnight approached the forest, they stopped. Then Naruto activated the watch then said as he turned the dial, "Eeny meeny miny." Then he slammed the dial down as he said, "Mo." Then his body begins to change into a lime green crystal. Once the transformation was complete, Gwen asked, "So what can this one do?" "No clue," Naruto said before turning to Max then said, "So what can this one do?" "You are a silicon-based life form called Petrosapiens and they are from the planet Petropia, and they have the ability to change their body at will," Max said. "You haven't told me everything, have you?" Naruto asked. "Nope, seeing as you are the type to work on what anything is capable of, so I will be giving you the basic of what the alien can do," Max said. "Thanks, now time to get going," Naruto said before running to the campsite with the others following him. As the family arrived at the campsite, they saw a robot around 40 feet tall with more humanoid features and 3 insectoid legs destroying campers. "Do you think the robot is pissed because of what me and Gwen did?" Naruto joked, turned to Max and said, "I will deal with the robot while you two with Midnight get everyone to safety," with Max nodding and Naruto headed to the robot. Naruto gets to the robot as the machine was grabbing a park ranger and he said, "Hey you big can of bucket of bolts, how about dealing with someone that can fight back?" There was a moment of stillness before the robot dropped the ranger onto his jeep before suddenly firing at Naruto, sending the transformed preteen flying into a camper. Then the robot fires again, making the camper explode. In the wreckage, a crystal handmade knife came out of the wreckage and Naruto came out. Then he looked at his hand, which was the knife, and said, "So this is what Grandpa meant, cool." Then he looked at the robot who was walking toward him. Then he runs toward it to cut it, but the robot jumps and lands on top of him, pinning him. Then he said, "Oh, I might be in trouble." "You think, Kit?" Kurama said. As Max and Gwen was getting the park ranger of his jeep and Midnight was sniffing for trapped civilians, the park ranger asked, "What on earth is going on here? You probably wouldn't believe us even if we told you." "Heck, I am still having trouble believing it," Gwen replied. Then she said, "Now come on," before she leads the ranger away, but he did move until he sees the robot get off of Naruto, then picks him up, then throws him at the jeep, making him jump out of the way. Then he runs after Max and Gwen. Naruto gets back up but ran to dodge the laser blast. Unfortunately for him, one of the blasts hits a tree and began to fall towards Gwen, who was stunned, so he quickly ran towards her, and his back turned to a pike, splitting the tree in half. Then he said, "So we good?" "Yeah, even," Gwen said numbly. Then the robot once again grabbed Naruto, making Naruto say, "Uh-oh," before being pulled back. Then it grabbed his arm. But Naruto just changed the style of his arm, making the robot's arm explode. Then the robot blasted him into a shed. Naruto gets up then thinks, got any ideas on how to beat this tin can? How about this, it's firing lasers right? Kurama asked. It is, Naruto replied. And you're made of crystal that you can change right? Kurama asked. What are you getting at? Naruto thought. I think the fox is getting at is what is a laser made of? Rava said. Light, Naruto said before slapping himself and said, I am an idiot. Then he gets in front of the robot then said, alright you oversized tin can, let's see you hit me right here. Then points to his chest, then the robot fires at him. Up to the side Max, Gwen and Midnight was watching with the dog whining at her master and Gwen asked, what is he doing? No idea, Max said. Naruto, who was holding the laser off, smiled a bit then said, now let's see if can handle it, before his hands started to morph and redirected the laser, slicing it, which made it explode. Back with Max, Gwen and Midnight, who was cheering, then Max and Gwen said, alright. Then Max continued, way go Naru, before he stopped himself as he looked at the other campers then said, diamond-headed dude. Naruto turns around then said, diamond head, I like that. Of course you would, Kurama said. Now that my work here is done, time to act like a tree and leave, Naruto said before walking away with Max and Gwen sneaking away while Midnight running after Naruto. The next morning as Max and Gwen was packing up, Max said, hey, have you seen Naruto? Not since breakfast, Gwen replied. They heard something, turns to see a dust cloud heading towards them before it suddenly stopped in front of Max, who looked to see a semi-armored velociraptor with black orbs on his feet, a black tail with 5 blue stripes, and bulky claws on his 3 fingers that can only open and close. He wears a black cone-like helmet with a protective visor. Then Max asked, is that you, Naruto? Got that right, and Rava likes the name XLR 8 inches, Naruto said as the visor went up. Then he said, before I turn back, let me put the rest of the stuff away. Then he went to work and in a matter of minutes everything was away. Then in a flash of red he was back to normal. Then he said, well, this summer will be a blast. That's one way to put it, Gwen said, then asked, so where did you go anyway? Just had to take care of a few things, Naruto said. You told Carl and Sandra, didn't you? Max asked, which Naruto just nodded. Then with a sigh Max said, well, you are one to get into the middle of things. Then he gestures into the RV and said, come on, let's hit the road. Then they was on the move in 5 minutes. After the summer road trip continued, Naruto had learned that from Heat Blast he has the power to eat fire, from Wild Mutt he has enhanced hearing and smell, from Diamond Head has the power to encase his skin with a diamond armor, and from EXR8 move as fast as a speeding racing car. Right now the group was driving though Washington DC when Naruto smelt something and said, Grandpa, pull over. Max did what Naruto said and asked, what's the matter, Naruto? Don't know, but I smell a lot of smoke, Naruto said before exiting the RV and gets on top of the vehicle, then closed his eyes and focused on his hearing. Then after a moment he begins to see things in a radar-like way. Then he sees a group of people standing round a building that was on fire. Then he opens his eyes and said, oh, just building fire, nothing important. Then as he was about to jump down he hears a woman scream and a child cry, and it was coming from the building fire. Then said, damn, there is people inside. Then he jumps down and said, there is a building on fire and there is a mother and child trapped inside. Then he ran off toward the building. Once Naruto was outside the building he activated the watch and turned it to the silhouette of Heat Blast before slamming it, and he turned into the walking volcano. Then said, now time to find the 2 people. But couldn't access his enhances. Then he said to himself, guess I can't use my power-ups when I am in alien form, so that mean I have to look the old-fashioned way. Then he entered the building and looked for them. When Naruto found the mother and child, a part of the roof was about to collapse, and so he quickly grabbed the debris, and the kid looked up and asked, who are you? Naruto, who was struggling, said, just a friendly walking talking volcano person who is here to help. Then he threw the debris to the side. Then he absorbed the flames and walked out the room with the mother and child following. Then he placed a foot on the stairs, it collapsed. Then he looked around to see there was no other way out. He said, well, as the old saying goes, if there is no exit, make one. Then he, with his higher power, he makes a hole in the wall and then a fire tornado. He exited the building with the mother and child with him. Then as everyone was amazed but the exit, then he saw and child holding 3 golden cards. Then he said, wow, you are one lucky kid to have 3 gold sumo slammers cards. The boy looks up to Naruto and said, thank you, and get this, I got these from a cereal box. Naruto was about to say something when all of a sudden, he heard the horn of the RV. Then he heard Gwen said, hey dimwit, if you can hear me, We have to get going because this fire was just a distraction for a jewelry store robbery. Thank you, citizen, Naruto said to Gwen. Then he turns to the boy then said, as much as I would like to chat about Sumo Slammer with you, I have to get going. Then he ran off with to get robbers. Once he was out of prying eyes, the RV pulled up next to him and Gwen said, get in. Thanks Gwen, Naruto said before getting into the RV and sitting down on passenger seat. After a little while the team was after the robbers when Max smelt something and looked at Naruto and said, I knew I should have got the fire-resistant seats when I got the rust bucket. Naruto looks at Max then said, sorry I can't help it, I am hot stuff. Then chuckled a little only to be sprayed with a fire extinguisher only to look at Gwen with an annoyed look. 10 super-powered being on that thing and you had to pick the one with the flaming butt, Gwen said. Well, I thought it was the right choice at the time, Naruto said. He is right, Gwen. Naruto properly didn't know about robbery and chose the one that could help at the time, Max said only for Gwen to spray Naruto again. Once the RV was close enough, Naruto opened the window and leaned out of it and made a fireball and said, fireball center pocket. Then shot it at under the car making it bounce upon impact and the wheels fly off and skidded into a wall. Max stopped the RV and Naruto walked out and up to the car and pulled the door off and he said, now you two have two choices, the easy way and the hard way, and the hard way will result you having a really bad sunburn. Now hands against the wall. And the duo did as told. Then the timer went off turning him back. Upon hearing the beeping the two thugs looked at Naruto and one of them said, who are you, kid? Not someone you need to concern yourself about, Naruto said as cops arrived. Then Naruto went over to the RV. Once Naruto entered the RV, Gwen said, you know, I am surprised you didn't want some sort of recognition or reward. What do you take me for? If there is one thing my favorite show has taught me is 3 things. Never use your power for personal gain. Never escalate a battle unless you are forced to. And the last one is keep your identities secret, Naruto said. Gwen looked at Naruto and asked, did you seriously say the rule of the Power Rangers? Naruto looks at Gwen and said, I am surprised you know that, seeing as it has nothing to do with learning. Only to get a glare from Gwen. Later the family was at a convenience store doing shopping and Naruto stopped but a display and said, wonder how many boxes I will have to get you. Then there was a large crash making Naruto looks to see a man with pale green skin, yellowish eyes, and shoulder-length white hair riding a giant mutated frog and he said, whoa, that's something you don't see every day. Then he sees the man get off the frog and walks up to a set of shelves and starts bagging a few bits. Then he said, I hope you are going to pay for that. The frog shot its tongue out but Naruto dodged it, but it hit a pile of boxes which used the boxes to fall on Naruto. When he got out from under the boxes, the man walked up to Naruto and said, words of advice, kid, don't try and be a hero. Then he gets back in the frog. Oh, is that because you're afraid to admitting that you got yourself beaten up by a 10-year-old, Naruto said as his fist became diamond. Before anyone could do anything, 2 security guards came over and one of the guards said, freeze, get down from that giant frog. The ending had confusion in his tone but the man just smirked before the frog just leapt down the aisle. The guard said over the radio, we have a grab and dash in electronics, male 5'6" and is riding a frog, or was it a toad, and trust me, you cannot miss him. Meanwhile in the pet section, Max and Gwen was picking food up for midnight and Gwen was playing with a few hamsters. Then the man arrived and turned a dial that was on his chest and from the antlers a red beam and hit one of hamsters, turning it into a giant mutated hamster. Then he did the same to a parrot. Then he said, arise to your full potential, my pets. Meanwhile Naruto, who was running at normal speed, said, how hard is it to find a whack job riding a frog? Then he sees him in the middle aisle as well as Max and Gwen running out of the pet section and the hamster climbing. Then he said, what sort of pet food do they have here, and I wonder if Midnight would want some, only to hear a bark. Then he said as he looked at his dog, guess you don't want some. Then he turns to face the mutated animal as he backed up. Behold the genius of Dr. Animo. Now nothing will stop me from getting what I deserve. Mark my words, today I will make history, or maybe I should say prehistory. Well, what are you waiting for? Change already, Gwen said. Naruto was about to say something when the hamster screeched before charging at them, making them run, but he stumbled, making the hamster ran past him. Then as he looked up to see the animal had pinned his cousin and grandpa to a wall. Then he sees a scooter and heads over to it as he said, I don't need the watch to help out. Then he grabbed a ball, then he chucked it at the hamster, getting its attention. Then he said, all right, you overgrown rodent, how about a chase? Then he drove off with the hamster chasing him. After a little chase, Naruto had managed to trap the hamster between two shelves. Then Max and Gwen and they said, "Naruto. And you wanted me to waste the time of the watch," Naruto said. Then there were a few thumps. Then Dr. Animo appeared. Then he said, "You young fool, you cannot stop me. I will turn Washington DC into Washington BC." Then he stands up and the parrot flies by and he jumps on it, then flies out though the skyline. Then the frog follows. Then one of the store workers up to the family and said, "You saved out store. Is there anything we can do to repay you?" "No, there isn't, as I was the right thing to do seeing as there is something we need to do," Naruto said before walking out the store. As the family was chasing Dr. Animo, Max said, "Ah, just like the good old days before I retired." "So what sort of plumber was you?" Gwen asked looking up from her laptop. "One of the best," Max said before taking a glimpse at Naruto, then said, "You know, Naruto, I am proud of what you did." "What, that I don't want to be rewarded because I did something that was right?" Naruto said. "Yeah," Max said. "Well, I don't want fame because I want my privacy," Naruto said. Max takes another glance at Naruto then asked, "Would that be because of what happened before coming here?" And all he got was silence as a response, which confirmed his answer. "Bingo, found it," Gwen said. "Found what, Gwen?" Naruto asked. "Info about Dr. Animo, and it says here that 5 years ago he was a promising researcher in veterinary science, but it turned out that he was doing all sorts of twisted experiments where he was mutating animal, and when he didn't win some big prize called the Verities Award, he flipped our," Gwen replied. "Great, now all the more reason to kick this guy's butt," Naruto said. Max looks out the window to see the parrot fly off. Then he said, "Great, lost him and he can be heading anywhere in Washington DC. Or Washington BC, Gwen said. "That's it, I know where he is going," Naruto said in realization. "Well, are you going to us?" Gwen said. "He is heading to the dinosaur museum," Naruto replied as he stands up and said as he gets to the door, "Meet you there." Then he opens the door and jumps out, then keeping pace with the RV he shuts the door and runs ahead of the RV. When Naruto gets to the museum, he looks at his footwear whose soles was run down and said, "Looks like I'm going to need a new pair." Then he takes them off then throws them in the bin. Naruto starts to look around. When Max and Gwen arrived, Naruto was outside of a big hole in the side of the building and was picking up a feather when Max said, "Looks like you was right." Then they entered the museum and was looking around when they saw Dr. Animo fiddling with his machine when he stopped and said, "You are very persistent and I hate persistent. We know about you and your freakazoid experiments, Dr. Animo, and for that I am going to kick your butt a lot harder than I intended to do," Naruto said. "Oh, and how will you be able to do that when my work is now in phase 2, Dr. Animo said. "And phase 2 is what exactly?" Naruto asked. "The reanimation of dormant cells," Dr. Animo said. "Can you use smaller words please?" Naruto asked. "Bring life back into what has long been lifeless," Dr. Animo replied. Then he twists his dial as he said, "Now observe." Then red beams sit out of his antlers and hit the mammoth, bring it back to live. As the mammoth walked towards the Tennysons, Naruto said with midnight barking, "Oh, so that's what he meant." Dr. Animo begins to walk backwards, and he said, "Behold the genius that is Dr. Animo," then he ran off. "I think now would be a great time to go, hero," Gwen said. "I was thinking the same thing. You two take midnight and look for Dr. Animo. I'll take of Manny," Naruto said before activating the watch and picking the silhouette of someone with 4 arms, then slams it and begins to transform. And when the transforming was done, red-skinned humanoid alien that was 10 feet tall with well-developed muscles. He also had 2 pairs of 4-fingered arms. Then he looked at himself as he flexed a little, then said, "This feels kinda weird, but judging by the form this one is strong." Then he looked at the mammoth and said, "Alright Manny, let's dance." Then he charged at the mammoth and managed to get it on its side with little effort. Then Max, Gwen and Midnight all went out the room to follow Dr. Animo. Then as they walked into a corridor, they stopped as the parrot was standing in the way. Then Midnight growled, then lunged at it. After a little tussle, the parrot managed to get the alien dog off of it. It ran away. The end. Gwen said, "Great job, guess who is getting extra treats?" Then they continued to walk into the next room where they saw Dr. Animo adjusting his device and then reanimated the T-Rex fossil that was in the room. Meanwhile, back with Naruto, he was flung into a wall. Then he gets up and charges at the mammoth before he was once again flung into the air and landed in another dinosaur skeleton. Then he said, "I think I need to ask Grandpa if we can pull over to a plane with no people so I can learn how to maneuver and know what each of my form can do." Then he stands up and said, "But where is the fun in that? Now time to take you down, Peanuts." Then the mammoth charged at him, but Naruto just grabs its trunk then spins around before lobbing the prehistoric animal across the room, then said in a sickly tone, "Not to self, don't do that too often." Back with the others, Max and Gwen had to duck to dodge the T-Rex's tail, then it walks over to the exit with Dr. Animo riding it, then it looks at them, then the scientist said, "I would love to stay, but I need to claim the award that I so erectly deserve." Then the T-Rex smashes through the doorway and walks away, then the parrot suddenly appears and swaps in and grabs Gwen and flies out the hole. Max acted quickly and shouted, "Naruto." Naruto ran in and asked, "What's going on?" Dr. Animo's parrot took Gwen, Max said before Naruto took off out the hole and jumped. Then he sees Midnight walking up to him with something in her mouth and asked, "What have you there, girl?" Then he took it, and it was a newsletter. Meanwhile, Naruto had grabbed a hold of the parrot then said, "No, bye for you, birdie." Then the parrot started to fly around trying to get Naruto off of it, then the timer on the watch started to go off and he said, "Not now." Then the feathers he was holding was plucked, then shouted as he fell, "Oh, that's just great." Then he makes a crested as he hit the ground, then he turns back, then he walks out the crater, then shouted, "Gwen." Max then pulls up in the RV then said with Midnight sitting on a seat, "Someone call for a taxi." Then Naruto gets in. With Gwen, who was in the clues of the parrot which was heading to Washington Monument, then in a grumpy tone while mimicking her mother said, "Spend the summer with your grandpa, honey, it will be an adventure." Once the parrot landed on the monument, it took her in its beak and she was scared as she looked down to the ground, then gasps as she remembered she had something that could help her, then pulls out a phone and said, "Well, Mum did say to use it in case of an emergency, and I think this class is as one." Then she uses it. Back with Naruto and Max as they were looking for the parrot when Naruto said, "There I no sign of Beck breath." "There can be many places where a parrot the size of an elephant can roost," Max said before reaching for the newsletter, then said, "Here, look at what Dr. Animo left behind." Naruto takes the paper and says out loud as he read, "Dr. Kelly accepts Verity's award." Then realizes what Dr. Animo was up to, the said, "He is going to pick up this award, we have to stop him." "We will, but first we need to find your cousin first," Max said before his phone starts to ring, then said, "Gwen." Then he answered, then he asked Gwen, "Where are you?" "I am at the Washington Monument, and you better get it here quick because I don't know how long the parrot will hold me," Gwen replied. "We are on it, Gwen," Max said before turning to Naruto and said, "Do you mind, Naruto?" "Of course not, though I am going to need some new shoes after this," Naruto said before jumping out the RV and ran toward the monument while Max follows him. When Naruto got to the monument, he saw the parrot flying off and a phone falling onto the ground, then he looked at the watch to see it go green, which then he picks the flying bug alien looking one before pushing it down, triggering the transformation. When the transformation was done, he was a giant bug that wore a white sleeveless jumpsuit with black lining which covered most of his body including his head and tail. His hands had a black coloration similar to fingerless gloves, and his eyes were yellowish orange. Then he took off just as Gwen lost her grip, and as she was falling, Naruto grabbed her and said, "Gotcha." "Huh?" Gwen said as she looked down to see she was flying, then she looked at and said, "So what do you call this alien?" "I am thinking stinkfly," Naruto replied. "Name suits it, also you have incoming," Gwen said as she noticed the parrot coming toward them. "Hang on then," Naruto said as he dodged the parrot, then begins an aerial chase. After a few quick maneuvers, Gwen, who was now on top of Naruto, begins to feel sick, then said, "I think I am going to be sick." "You throw up on me, then you better learn how to fly," Naruto said, then noticed Max on top of the monument with his hand out the hole, then he asked, "Gwen, do you trust me?" "Do I have a choice?" Gwen asked. "Nope," Naruto replied before doing a quick spin, that he was now carrying his cousin, then flies up the monument before doing a 180 and flies down it, then said as he passes Max, "She is all yours." Then passes Gwen to him, then he tackled the parrot who was going to attack Gwen, then throw it to the ground. As Naruto was hovering in front of Max and Gwen, Max shouted, "Go and stop Animo, we are alright." "Speak for yourself," Gwen said, then Naruto flew off toward Kelly Industries. When Naruto got to the location, he saw the T-Rex about to attack someone, so he flies in and punches the dinosaur, but the dinosaur swung its tail and hits him, sending him flying. Then as he gets up, he sees a gold sumo slammers card, then said, "Shame, I have something important to do." As he see the dinosaur with someone in its mouth, then he flies toward it and grabs the man as he dinosaur fling him up and opens its mouth, but Naruto saves the man just before the T-Rex closes its mouth. Then Dinosaur then turns to where Naruto flew. Then Dr. Animo asked, "What are you, you little pest?" Naruto puts the man down then said, "Get out of here." Then he turned to Dr. Animo then said, "I am Stinkfly, and I am doing a good job as I am here to annoy you." Then Dr. Animo started to blast Naruto with a red beam from his helmet. But Naruto just flies around before flying toward the scientist, then spits some slime-like substance before flying toward Animo and getting in close. Naruto flies close to Dr. Animo, making the man drop the award he was holding and shouts as he misses it, "No!" Then it smashes as it hits the ground. Then Naruto quickly grabs the helmet and pulls it off. Then Dr. Animo shouts, "My transmodulator." Naruto then stops and asked, "Is that what this thing is?" Then he throws it to the ground, which sends out a pulse which in turn reverts everything that was blasted by it back to its original form. "No," Dr. Animo said as he sits on the now fossilized T-Rex as it crumbles under the extra weight. The next morning the police was taking Dr. Animo away as was shouting, "Let me go, I deserve that award and I will take care of whoever stopped me last night," only to be bitten by Midnight. Naruto chucked and said, "Come here girl, you don't know where has been," which Midnight does without hesitation. "Well, now that everything is sorted, let's get going," Max said before hitting the road again. Then he said, "Oh Naruto, found this on the floor." Then he hands him the gold sumo slammer card. Naruto takes the card and says, "Wow, thanks grandpa, but what about footwear?" "We can do that, but," Max said. Max had driven to the next location, which happens to be a fishing lake, and right now they're parked up at an designated area of the lake that is for swimming for the night, when Naruto in his swimming trunks ran along a dock that was nearby and said as he jumped in, "Cannonball." Then Midnight followed behind. "What are you doing?" Gwen asked. "What does it look like, Gwen?" Naruto replies. Then he asked, "Why don't you dive in? Please, who knows what nasty slimy things are slithering in there?" Gwen replied as she used a flashlight she was holding to look around. Then upon seeing Naruto she said, "I rest my case." "Only you wouldn't want to get wet while camping next to a lake," Naruto said before using a hand and splashing the water to get Gwen wet, making her scream in surprise. "Will you knock it off?" Gwen said before walking away. As Gwen was walking away, Midnight started to growl. Then something grabbed Naruto's ankle, making him say, what is happening?" Then he was pulled under. Gwen, still hearing the alien dog still growling, she turns to say, "Very funny Naruto, I am not going to fall for this prank." Then she sees Naruto's air bubs. Then after a few more seconds she said, "Naruto." Then something came out of the water roaring, making Gwen scream and drop the touch, and when the light hit the thing, Gwen saw red and said, "Naruto. You should have seen the look on your face, priceless," Naruto said in his forearms. Alien then laughed a bit. Gwen gets up and said, "You are so busted when tell grandpa." As Gwen was walking away, Naruto turns and look out into the lake, then asked himself, "What was that I saw?" Flashback a few minutes ago, as Naruto was being dragged under the water, he saw a silhouette of a very large creature, so he quickly uses the watch and picks 4 arms. After transforming he gets free, and a second later the creature is gone and he thinks, what sort of creature was that? Then he notices a lot of seaweed and gains a mischievous smirk. Back to now, Naruto was still looking out at the lake when Midnight nudged him and he gently pets her and said, "What sort of lake is this?" And Midnight looks out as well and sniffs the air. Then the creature emerged from the water, then swam away. Once the transformation wore off, Naruto said, "Well, come on girl, let's go to bed, no point in worry about it now." The next morning the Tennysons was walking towards the docks and Naruto was telling them about the creature when Max said, "I am sure it was just a really big fish. So give the mega fish story a rest," Gwen said. "A big fish, it dragged me under the water," Naruto said. Then he walked ahead, then sees a bucket of worms. He picks a handful and presented to Gwen, who screamed. And he said, "How about some breakfast?" Naruto, "That is gross," Gwen said. Then she turns to Max and asked, "What's with the bucket if Slimy's bait?" Max simply replied, "Yeah, well, I think I am going to pass on the fishing trip, so I am going to stay here and catch some sun," Gwen said as she begins to walk away. "Okay, but you don't know what you're missing," Max said. "I am pretty sure I do," Gwen said. Then Max and Naruto turned back to the boat to see man sorting something out, and Max asked, "Captain Shaw?" "Who want to know?" the man said. "Max Tennyson, and this is my adopted grandson Naruto, his dog. We're the ones that chartered your boat for the day to do some fishing," Max replied. "Well then, what are you waiting for? A grave invitation, get aboard. I ain't got all day," Captain Shaw replied. Well, it is bad luck to board a boat without the captain permission, Captain Grouch, Naruto said as he and Max got on board the boat. You know your stuff, kid, Captain Shaw said as he drove the boat, not caring what Naruto called him. Well, I do read, Naruto said as he took a seat in Midnight Lane at his side. As the captain was driving the boat, Max asked, is there anything worth catching today? There is, and more than you will ever know, Captain Shaw replied. Then he took a quick glance at Naruto, who seemed to be looking for something, and said, I have to say your boy is impressive. Most kids that age usually is using their breakfast as chum. Max looked at Naruto and said, compared to his past, this is nothing. This is before your child adopted him, right? Captain Shaw asked. It is, and when we first get him home, he wasn't very trusting, but luckily, we saw that he was growing close to a dog I had in my care at the time, Max said. And you gave him the dog as a start of building of your relationship with him? Shaw asked. Max nodded and said, that's right, and the bond, it was the best decision that we made. I can see that, and they care for each other deeply, and let's hope nothing bad happens to the dog, Shaw said. I would feel sorry for the people that does do something to Midnight, Max said. Why do you say that? Shaw asked. Well, for starters, Naruto isn't an ordinary boy and is capable of doing things that aren't normal, and he is like the main character from that film Taken, Max said. Wow, sure doesn't look like it, BTU. Then again, look can be deceiving, Shaw said. Max just nods at that, then walks up to Naruto and asked, what are you up to, Naruto? Just keep an eye out for that creature, that thing isn't taking me by surprise again, Naruto said. Then he sees a bit of driftwood. Naruto opened his mouth to say something then but closed his mouth as Kurama said, think again, Naruto, it's a bit of. Oh, so it is, Naruto said as the wood floated, then thinks, how did you know that? I was a being mad up of chakra, I had the ability to sense emotions, -1 was my strong suit, mind you, Kurama said. So you noticed it last night, why didn't you warn me, Naruto said. Now Naruto, remember this is a fishing trip, not a monster hunting trip, Max said. It's called the Kraken, Shaw said. Whoa, you know about the creature, Naruto asked. Of course it's my job to know about it, Shaw replied, handing Naruto a blurry old picture of something. I've been on its tail for years and people say my rudder's not right. Why doesn't that surprise me, Max asked no one with a raised eyebrow. Sighting go back hundreds of years on this very lake, some say it's a myth, but I don't, and I can take you to a spot where I personally laid eyes on the beast, that is if you have the stomach for some real adventure, Shaw said, asked. Naruto looks at Max and he said, I guess a little adventure wouldn't hurt. As the boat was heading to its destination, Max walked up to Naruto and said, Naruto, I don't want you to get your hopes up, he doesn't seem to have both oars in the water, if you catch my drift. I do, Grandpa, but the same could be said that think aliens exist having their heads in the sky, Naruto said. Got me there, Max said as Naruto does have a point there, then thinks I guess it wouldn't hurt to have a tiny bit of trust in him. As the group was approaching the spit they saw it was cornered off, then Shaw said, do not enter, what's going? Looks official, maybe we should turn back, Max said as he turns to Shaw. Nonsense, this is my lake, and I will go wherever Shaw said before interrupted. Fishing boat spot where you are, a voice said, making the trio turn to see a white boat with FOF pulling up next to them. Then tanned man with a hawk-like nose. He has a stern-like face having teared troughs and dark lining around the eyes, giving him an almost tired look. He has short, reddish-brown hair and a spiky goatee. Who was at the side said, I am Jonah Melville, the founder. If friends of fish, we have closed this sections of the lake for an environmental study. You're going to have to turn your boat around. Suppose you make me fish hugger, Shaw growled. Well, since I chartered the boat for the day, I suppose I'm in charge, isn't that right, Captain? Max said, making the captain sigh. I suppose it does, Shaw mumbled as he walked to the wheel. Oh, and here I was hoping to see and possible befriend the Kraken, Naruto said. Jonah started to laugh, then said, the Kraken, not that old fish story. Look, kid, I'm a marine biologist, and if anyone tells you they saw a monster in this lake is casting without a hook. Then he and the other person started to walk into the cabin. Something seemed off with him, Naruto thought as the boat turned around. And you would be right, Naruto, Kurama said. What makes you say that? Naruto asked out loud, getting the attention of Max. He seemed to have a greedy aura, same as the other person, Kurama replied. Could this have something to do with the Kraken? Naruto thought. Could be, Rava said. As the two boat was heading back to shore, Shaw's radar picked something up and said, we've found something. Naruto looks behind them to see a fin and said, or something found us look, then points behind them. Shaw looks to see the fin and said, the Kraken. Then the fin went under as a large shadow passed them. The captain said, looks like it heading to the docks. Gwen, both Max and Naruto said at the same time. Meanwhile at the dock Gwen was sitting at the end of a pier and said, awesome sun at last, and with my prankster adopted cousin I can just sit back and relax, unaware of the incoming creature. Then she hears a boat horn. Then she said, how many times does that dimwit thinks I am going to fall for this? Then the Kraken came out and roared before slamming down on the pier, destroying it, sending everyone that was on it into the lake. And when Gwen emerged from the water she said, that's not Naruto. Back at the boat Shaw was looking through a pair of binoculars and said, I told ya it's real, the Kraken, it lives. Sail now and gloat later, Max said. Then he leans close to Naruto and said, someone has to rescue those people, and with a nod Naruto jumped overboard. When Naruto emerged from the water, he activated the watch and saw a silhouette of a fish man and said, hopefully you like me now. Then he drives down and slams the plate. When Naruto emerges he was XLR8 and then the faceplate went up and he said, stupid watch, I wanted the fish man not XLR8 inches. Then he looks to see the Kraken chasing the people that was on the now destroyed pier, then said, now time if it's possible to run on water if you move fast enough. Then the faceplate came down and he started to move, and the faster he moved the closer he was moving on water with some trouble at the start, but he managed to get the hang of it before he saving Gwen and headed to land. Once on land Naruto puts Gwen down and asked, you okay? Yeah, and thank you for the save, Gwen said. Then Naruto turns and runs back onto the lake while kicks up a bit of sand at Gwen. Then she shouted, hey, you did that on purpose. As Naruto was saving the people on FOF boat Jonah said, get us out of here now. Then the driver turned on the engine and started to drive away, which the Kraken noticed and started to swim after it, but the boat didn't get far before the Kraken emerged in front of it with Naruto following, and as the boat was turning the sea creature swiped its tail making the boat turn, and as the Kraken was about to attack the boat Naruto arrived making a little tornado making the Kraken turn around. As Naruto slows down he jumps onto the boat. As the people on the boat was looking for the creature it emerged at the front of the boat and tore a tarp revealing a create, then with its tentacles it grabbed it and Jonah said, no, then ran over and grabbed the create. Then Naruto grabbed a tentacle and tried to pull back making the Kraken let go, and as it went to attack the boat again Naruto got under it and jabbed the undermouth with his feet at incredible speed making it retreat again, and when it was definitely gone this time Jonah walked up to Naruto and said, thanks for the hand and the feet. Naruto's faceplate went up and he said, what's in that create that you would risk your life for it, and this better be important. Our lunch, Jonah replied. Naruto glared at the FOF leader then asked, you almost became lunch for your lunch? Then a Kraken's tentacle shot out of the water and grabbed the create. Then he thought, I am not going after lunch again. Then the timer went off. Then he said, I would have liked to help you retrieve your lunch but I had to go. Then he ran off and headed to his boat. As Naruto was nearing the boat B said, almost there. Then he changed back then said, damn it. Then he skidded along the water and hits the boat. What was that? Max said as he looked over the side. That would be me, Naruto said. Man overboard. Shaw. Naruto is overboard, Max said to Shaw, who was at a harpoon gun aiming at the Kraken before he said, bring the boat around. Shaw turns to looks at the tennis and then back at the Kraken then said, next time you're in my sights you won't be so lucky. Then he walks back to the wheel. Once Naruto was back on the boat he thinks, so what do you think is going on here, Kurama? The FOF people are clearly up to something and it's to do with the Kraken, the fox replied. And you have no idea what is, Naruto thought back. I have a few ideas, Kurama said. And you're not going to tell me, are you, Naruto thought. Now where would the fun be in that, as we have to have something to do, right Rava, Kurama said before facing Naruto's chakra. Right, Rava said. Later that night Naruto at a campfire outside the RV with Midnight at her usually spot was, and Naruto said, see, I told you there was something in the lake. Just because you were right about the creature doesn't mean I was wrong about him, so cut him Naruto, so try and stay away from him, Max said. I guess I could, Naruto said. So we will leave this to the experts like those friends of fish guys, Max said. Yeah, let's go with that, Naruto said in a mistrusting tone. Max catches the tone and asks, why did you use that tone, son? Before Naruto could reply Shaw was walked by and said, those low-down no-good fish kissers. Hey Captain, Grumpy, what's got you in a pickle? Well, more of one anyway, Naruto said. The nerve of those enviro punks, they shut down the entire lake, Shaw said, then turns to the side and said, no one tells me where to sail and no one is keeping me from reeling in the catch of the century, nobody. Later that night Shaw's boat left the docks. Gwen was banging on the toilet door of the RV while saying, come on Naruto, did you get stuck? Gwen, have you seen Midnight? Max said as he walked up to her. No, I haven't, and Naruto been in the toilet for a while now, Gwen replied. Don't tell me, Max said as he opened the door to reveal it was empty. What, but how did he get out? I saw him walk in there but not out, Gwen said. You might have seen it, but he can teleport thanks to his chakra, Max said. Then he slumps over and said, and I didn't think he would sneak out and must be out at the lake. What makes you say that? Gwen asked. He doesn't seem to trust the Friends of Fish group, Max said. Meanwhile at the boat as Shaw was driving, he heard something and stops the boat and grabs an oar, then said, hey, there are no stowaways on my boat even if you are a filthy rat. Then moves the tarp with the oar revealing Naruto and Midnight. Upon noting he has been caught, Naruto said, First Mate Uzumaki reporting for duty, Captain. Shaw glares a bit then asked, what are doing here? I am here to make sure you don't kill the Kraken, Naruto said as he stands up and dusts himself off. You can't stop me, Shaw said. We will see, Naruto said. Then he asked, so spotted her yet? No, she has probably been chased into the deepest parts by our fishy friends by now, Shaw said. Then he goes somewhere. So any ideas? Naruto asked. There is only one way to flush her out, Shaw replied. Really, how? Naruto asked. With some life bait, Shaw said, coming back wearing a scuba gear. Maybe I should go with you just to be safe, Naruto said. No need, Shaw said as he adjusted his headgear, then said, I've got my dive buddy right here. Then he pulls out a harpoon, then he walks over to the edge and said, wish me luck. Then he goes into the water. As Naruto was waiting, he sees another set of scuba gear, then turns to Midnight and said, alright girl, look after the while I am gone. Which got a bark in response. Then Naruto puts the scuba gear on, then dives into the lake following Shaw. Naruto skillfully follows Shaw and sees him stand on some wreckage, and as he gets closer Shaw fires his harpoon at him, BTUB dodges it. Then as he stands next to him, then Shaw swims up and Naruto thinks, is that what I think it is? If you think it's an egg then you would right, kid, Kurama said. Then that means the Kraken is attacking because someone is taking her babies, Rava said. Right, and this the last thing I was thinking, why the Kraken was attacking, Naruto thought before heading up. When Naruto surfaced he sees a group of 3 men in full scuba gear surrounding Shaw. Then one of them fully equipped scuba men punches Shaw, then pulls his face mask off to reveal to be Jonah. Then the other 2 picking Shaw up and took him to their boat, and Naruto heard Jonah say, take him with us and place him next to that frag dog and we will find what he really knows back at the cannery. Then fiddled with something while saying, we'll came with a minisub and snagged the rest of the eggs. Then throws the device into the lake and walks onto his boat, then pulls something else out and said, now as for his boat, I think it was just one of those unfortunate unexplained missing boat cases. Then the boat drove off. The boat exploded, sending debris all over the place. As Naruto was swimming to dodge the debris, once it was over he resurfaced, then activated the watch, then said, I am coming girl. Then he slammed the plate down, transforming into Stinkfly. As Naruto casing the boat he shouted as he sees some of the men heading to the gun that was at the front of the boat, give it up if you know what's good for you. Then he gets fired at, but a little bit of goop immobilizes the gunners, but Jonah then releases the barrels that was on the boat. Then as Naruto flies near one of them it explodes, causing a chain reaction which caused a tree to fall, and as Naruto flies under it he loses control and falls into the water, then said, damn it, my wings are soaked. Then he swims to a log that was in the water and shakes his wings to then as they started to fire at him, and with his gun he spits at a tree branch and pulls him to the tree, then quickly hides when he sees they are looking for him. Then he sees Shaw getting thrown overboard and the boat drives off, shaking his wings some more. He manages to flies and quickly grabs Shaw and heads back to the RV. As Naruto sees the RV the timer starts beeping and he said, oh come on, not again. Then he changes back and they started to fall and luckily landed on the RV's awning, then said, if I ever met the making of Thig, think I am so going to kick his backside for adding a timer function, while gesturing to the watch. Found him, Gwen said. You have some explaining to do, mister, Max said. First can we untie Shaw, then I will explain, Naruto said as he pushes Shaw of the awning. Then as Max was untying the captain, Naruto said, the reason I snuck out was because I thought Shaw was going to do something and I wanted to find out the reason why the Kraken was attacking. And what did you find, Naruto? Max asked. Well, we found the Kraken's nest, which was full of egg, Naruto said. The reason why the Kraken is attacking everything is because someone has taken her egg, Max said. Yeah, and I think it's Jonah, as Kurama said. He has a greedy aura, Naruto said. And I think I just found out who Jonah really is, Gwen said. Well, tell us who he is, Naruto said, feeling antsy without his trusty dog. I did a little checking on all government sites for these sort of groups and found out Friends of Fish isn't on any of them, Gwen said. And I am guessing that's a bag thing, right? Naruto asked. You're right, FOF is just a front, as Jonah Melville isn't a friend to any kind of wildlife. He travels around the world pouching rare animals, then creates them up and sells them to private collectors, Gwen said. So that's mean the crate that the Kraken took earlier had one of her eggs in it, and what he will be doing to midnight, Naruto said, heading out the door as he starts letting his anger out, making his eyes go fox-like and his whiskers birthmarks go darker. Where do you think you're going, doofus? Gwen asked. Gwen, now isn't the time for this, Max said, seeing this look a few times before. Then he follows Naruto out and asked Naruto, who is sitting on a log, then asked, who's in control now? No surprise you knew about this, Max, Naruto, Kurama said. What are you going to do now? Max asked. Well, Naruto wants to get midnight back and was going to it now before I managed to get control thanks to his anger channeling my chakra. Then I am going to wait 5 minutes, then go to bed, Naruto, Kurama replied. Why not do it yourself? Max asked. As I told you when I first met you, I am now basically Naruto's instances, which I can take control of if I choose to do so, or he ain't angry enough, Naruto, Kurama said. That's true, Max said. Right, and I can only maintain control for 10 minutes max, and if I am in a fight when I loses control, then Naruto will lose the fight, Naruto, Kurama said. True, seeing as all it takes lose a fight is a split second to be distracted, Max said, then said, so you took control of Naruto so you can put to bed so he will be rested so he can go and get midnight back. Naruto, Kurama just nodded and said, that's plan A. But I think Jonah will try something tonight. As to him, this is his meal ticket now. They said something about a cannery. Then the door opens, Shaw comes out and said, that's nice and good, but this doesn't change a thing. That beast is mine now, let's go, I have a spare boat down at the docks, before walking off. Naruto, Kurama sighs, then say, I will talk to the kid while we are heading to the cannery. Then the Tennysons followed Shaw. At the docks, the Tennysons was in the boat and Shaw was untying the boat when Gwen hung up her phone and said, it's going to be a while before the police gets here. That's good because the kid wants to deal with Jonah himself, Kurama, who is still in control, said. You know, I can believe they was telling the truth about you, Gwen said. What, that Naruto has 2 other personalities, one of which is somehow female, Kurama said. Seriously, Gwen said. Yeah, and she buried me up to my neck the first time we met, when I called her a he one time, Max said, remembering one of the time he met Rava. Then Max undone the rope his end, then drives off, which caused Shaw to shout, what are you doing, get back here. We're sorry, Captain, but this had to be done, Naruto, Kurama shouted. You don't know what you're doing, a monster's a monster, and I know a monster when I see one, Shaw shouted. No you don't, Naruto, Kurama shouted back before he collapsed. Naruto, Gwen shouted in shock. Don't worry about his Gwen, Kurama is just talking to Naruto in his mindscape, Max said. When the Tennysons got to the location, they started to climb a ladder, then Naruto whispers, see if you can find midnight and the egg. What about you? Gwen whispered back. Well, seeing Jonah wants an expensive sea creature, then lets him fight one, plus I have a bone to pick with him, Naruto said, then activating the watch and picking the fishman silhouette before pushing the plate back down, triggering the transformation, and when transformation was done, he was a fusion of an alligator, an eel, an anglerfish, and a shark. Then he jumps into the water just to see the Kraken heading to the surface. After a few minutes, Naruto swims to the surface and launches himself out of the water toward Jonah, and upon landing on suit gear, then said, if you want to mess with, try me in for size. Then he goes and frees the eggs. BTU Jonah pointed a laser gun at him, but he just thought it like it was a snake, then manages to get the case that was holding the Kraken's eggs, but Jonah wasn't going to let the eggs go easily and punches Naruto, who was holding the container, making him let go of it, and it smashes in the ground and the eggs rolls to the edge of a plank of wood. In the cannery, Max and Gwen was sneaking around the place when they found one of the men grabbing a gun, and Max was instructing Gwen what to do when a hatch opened and a man climbed in. Then Max said, all right, we just want my grandson's dog back so we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Yeah, like we will give you the dog back. That dog can fetch us a fair bit of money, the man said as he took a few steps forward, causing Max and Gwen to step back. After a few more steps the Kraken's tail came through the wall and Max looked up and said, "Gwen, go high." Then he and Gwen grabbed a hook and swung forward, making the hooks move as the tail was taking out the floor, making the poacher fall into the water. Then the man that was grabbing the gun came running out the room, only for Max to knock the gun out of his hand, then quickly meeting the bottom of Gwen's trainers. As Gwen was looking at the man she asked, "So is this the easy way or the hard way?" Max only shrugged then said, "Who knows, now let's find midnight." Back outside, the Kraken and Jonah was racing to grab the eggs, only for the Kraken to get to them first. Jonah said, "My eggs," then he moved the lift to knock the eggs back into the water. Naruto jumps up onto the suit and said, "The eggs ain't yours, so give it up," then gets past him and grabs the eggs. As Naruto was about to start swimming, the suit landed on top of him, causing the eggs to scatter, and Jonah started to beat him while saying, "Rescuing babies, very heroic bit, not too smart." "Well, I have been told that I not too bright," Naruto said as he protects the eggs from Jonah before he was knocked down, and Jonah quickly grabs the eggs, but Naruto quickly recovers and manages to get the eggs back, and after getting free he starts swimming away, but the Kraken, not understanding Naruto's intentions, attacks him, retrieving her eggs back, and then she starts swimming away with Jonah following behind, followed by Naruto, and Jonah uses a sonic device making the Kraken screech in pain, allowing the poacher to get the eggs, but Naruto, having superiority in the water, pushes the suit into the lake bed, and after a little fight Naruto gets the eggs back and starts swimming to the Kraken's nest with the Kraken following behind him. When Naruto was at the nest, he gently put the eggs where they were supposed to be, then said, "There you go, safe and sound." Then he turns to the Kraken and said, "I was only trying to save you eggs. Now time to deal with Jonah," who was quickly coming to grab the eggs, but the Kraken was quicker and grabbed the suit and bits down, destroying the suit. Jonah, who was now swimming, pulls a knife out and goes and stabs the Kraken, but the blade just snaps. Then the creature goes to eat Jonah, and Naruto stops it by getting in between the two and said, "Don't do it. If you do, then who will look after your eggs?" Then the Kraken closes its mouth, then gives a little nod, then goes back to its nest. Then Naruto faces Jonah, who was shrugging. Then he said, "This is for taking my dog," but Gata punches the poacher with all his might a few times, then takes him to the surface and hangs him on a bit of wood, then said, "Hang here for a while so the police takes you to a nice cell for you to hunt all you like." Then he see a boat arriving, then quickly swims away. Meanwhile, off to the side, Max and Gwen was standing on a pier with Midnight, and Max said, "Good riddance to bad rubbish," which got a bark response from Midnight. Then they heard Shaw say, "Finally I got myself a Kraken. One of the Kraken's eggs must have hatched. Can you imagine this trophy mounted on my wall?" As Mosh and Gwen looked at what Shaw has caught in his net, which was Naruto still in his fishman form. Then all of a sudden, the timer started to beep and Naruto said, "Great timing." As Naruto turned back, Max said, "I think your catch of the day isn't exactly what was advertised, Captain Shaw." Shaw picks up his light and see his catch, which was now Naruto in his human form and now had gills in the side of his neck. Then he said, "But I could have sworn. I think it's time you took a break from the Kraken and think of something else if you're thinking a human is a sea creature," Max said as Shaw released Naruto. Once Naruto was free, Shaw said, "Sorry for capturing you, lad. It's fine, it's dark and Grandpa is right, you need to take some time away from the Kraken and try and forget about it," Naruto said before he and his family walked back to the RV for a good night's sleep. As the group was walking back to the RV, Max asked, "So Naruto, what name are you going to piss on? Are you talking about the fishman alien?" Naruto asked, which Max just nodded. Then he thinks about the time he was transformed, then said, "I was thinking Ripjaws because of it powerful jaws." "Good name," Max said. As the Tennyson family was heading to their next location, made a pit stop at an ice cream parlor. As Naruto and Gwen was inside choosing their frozen treat, Max was outside withdrawing some money when a jeep pulled up and a man got out and walked up to Max and he said, "Out of the way, Grandpa, I have a major withdrawal to make." Then he grabbed Max and tossed him to the side. Then upon looking up, Max saw another person. Meanwhile, inside, Gwen and Naruto was at the counter when Gwen asked, "What do you have that's less than 3% fat and no sugar?" "Napkins," the cashier replied, then looked towards Naruto and asked, "What about you, kid?" "Good answer, Gigi," Naruto said, then was about to say what he wanted when he heard something. Thanks to his enhanced senses, turned to look outside to see someone with a chain and hook walking up to the side of the shop. Then he said, "Hold that thought, need to check on Grandpa." Then he headed outside then as he activated the watch and turned into a black and white alien with green lines like circuits over its body, then liquefied himself and headed to the truck. Just as Naruto attached himself to the truck, the man hooked the hook in the cash machine, then he turned to his partner then said, "Hit it." As the man was going to drive off, the engine cut out, then the steering wheel disappeared, then the dashboard turned into Naruto and he said, "Sorry, but your recent transaction hasn't been approved." Then he tossed the driver out of the truck, then he went to his normal form just as the man with the hook tossed the hook at Naruto only for Midnight to intercept it, then she pounced at the man knocking him over, then Naruto walked up to them and said, "Good girl." Then the dog meets him halfway and pets his dog on the head. As the man was getting up, Max put a foot on him and asked rhetorically, "Where do you think you're going?" Then he turns to Naruto and said, "Good work you too." "Thanks, so what are we going to next?" Naruto asked. "Next we are going to see your Aunt Vera for the weekend," Max replied. "Oh, that's just great, prepare for a boring weekend," Naruto groaned out as he slouched. After some time, the police had came and got the robbers and Naruto and Gwen got their ice cream. They were back on the road and Gwen said while doing dishes, when Aunt Vera said that she wants to move away from it all, she really meant it. "Well, I suppose seeing not so bad seeing Aunt Vera," Naruto said. "Well, I like Aunt Vera," Gwen said. "Somehow, I am not surprised about that," Naruto said. "And what is that supposed to mean?" Gwen asked. "Well, you act like an old lady at times," Naruto said. After a bit more driving they arrived at the old age estate and Naruto said, "Hey Grandpa, did you have anything for me to do while we are?" Before Max could reply, Naruto sees an old man on the roof and slipped, but to his surprise the old man was very nimble and thought, "That's not normal, what do you think, Kurama?" "Got that right, kid, I sense something isn't right with some of the residents here," Kurama replied. "You know what that means, proceed with Kusan," Rava said. As Naruto stopped conversing with the two spirits, he heard Max finish talking. "Sorry Grandpa, what was that?" "I said there should be something in your bag," Max said. After a little bit more driving they arrived at Vera's house, and as Naruto was getting out of the RV with Midnight, "I swear old people love to live there, it's gotta be so damn hot." Then he was sprayed with some water, then he turns to see Gwen holding a water gun, then runs off laughing, then he said, "That's right, you better run." Then as he was about to give chase he sees the next door neighbor, which was an old man, looking at him with disgust, then opened his mouth and hisses at him before his neck stretches and bends in ways it shouldn't, then he lower his blinds. "Okay, now I know something isn't right." "Yeah, that was slightly creepy," Rava said. "Well, looks like you want need to look though your bag after all," Kurama said. "Oh, and Naruto, please be polite," Max said as he walks up behind Naruto, not hearing what the preteen said. "What do you mean?" Naruto asked. "Vera is a pincher," Max said, knowing Naruto doesn't like being touched by people he doesn't know or for too long. "I will try, but if I start feeling uncomfortable or she pinches my cheeks too hard I am sending her flying," Naruto said. "All I ask is you don't be too hard on her," Max said. "I'll try," Naruto said. Then the door opened and an elderly woman with a similar build to Max with gray hair that reaches down to her shoulders walked out and she said excitedly, "Max." "Vera," Max said as he walks up to his sister and gives her a hug with the kids following. Then once Max and Vera separated, Vera said, "Kids, I can't believe you're here." Then she pinches Gwen's cheeks, and "Look at you two, so grown up." Once Vera lets go of Gwen, then preteen said, "Ow." Vera does the same thing to Naruto and making the boy say, "Good thing your family." Still dealing with that trauma, Vera asked, then she said, "Why don't you all come in, I can't wait to have a chat with all of you." Then they all went in through. Naruto lingered behind a bit and looked at the neighbor's house, then follows his family. After a bit of time the family was sitting at the dining table eating jelly and Max said, "Vera, this is delicious, now what are these brown chunks in the mold?" "Pork chops and the white parts are cauliflower," Vera replied, making Naruto pause a sec, then he shrugs a bit then continues eating the jelly. Then she asked, "So Naruto, what have you been doing, still attending therapy?" "I am," Naruto replied. Then Gwen looks to the side to see stuffed, then gets up for a closer look, then asked, "Aunt Vera, is that a stuffed red-billed North American chickadee?" Vera gasps and said, "How perspective, Gwen, and did you know that the song Red-billed North American Chickadee is actually—" Then Gwen joins in, a call indicating alarm or excitement. Then Vera tries to imitate the call. Naruto, who was finishing his bit of the jelly, said, "That for that Aunt Vera, though it's something I probably wouldn't have often." Vera walks up to the table with a bowl of sweet, then asks, Naruto, would you like some candy? What kind is it? Naruto asked. Coffee, Vera replied. Naruto was about to grab one of the candy, but Max said, don't think about it Naruto, we are still cleaning up the last mess you made after having caffeine. Naruto turns to Max and says, oh come on, that happened months ago. And that's just proves on how bad you can get when you're hyper, Max said. You can't blame me fully, Kurama was also a part of it, Naruto said. And who is Kurama a part of? Max asked. I got nothing, Naruto said after thinking about it. After some time Naruto was bored and thinks, so bored, what can I do to kill the time? You could see what's going on around here, Kurama said. And how can I get out of here without alerting anyone? Naruto thinks. Why not try that ghostly looking silhouette on the watch? Rava replied. Now that's an idea, Naruto thinks before getting up and wailing into the room he will be sleeping in. Then he activate the watch, then chooses the silhouette that Rava was talking about, turning into a ghost-like alien with one eye and lines around his body. Then as he was flying out of his room he sees Vera handing Gwen a shell, and as she put teeth near her ear Naruto said, loser, fracking the girl out. Then he chuckles a bit as he flies through a wall and closer to Gwen invisible. Naruto, Gwen asked. I am off to see what's going on around here, Naruto said. Then he flies over to Midnight and said, now be a good girl and stay and look her Gwen and Grandpa. Then after getting a soft bark of understanding he flies through the same wall, and once outside he said, now what can I do while I find something suspicious? Then he sees a golf cart. You're thinking it, aren't you, Kit? Kurama said. Thinking what, Kurama? Naruto asked. You're going to joyride the cart, the nine-tailed fox replied. Of course I wasn't, Naruto said. Don't give me that, Kurama said. If you knew what I was going to do, then why asked, Naruto said as he flies over to the cart then starts driving it. As Naruto was driving the cart still in his alien form, Rava said, so Naruto, have you thought of a name for this alien? I was thinking something along the lines of Ghost Freak, Naruto said. And what of the one that is able to upgrade that truck earlier today? Kurama asked. Oh yeah, I haven't named that one, did it? But you had the perfect name, Kurama, Naruto said. I did? Kurama asked in surprise, then said, I mean of course I did. What did I come up with? Again. Upgrade, and still need to find out what I got from that form, Naruto said. Then he smelt something nice then said, apple pie. Old people do have a knack of making the best pies, don't they? As the two spirits was about to say something he see the owner of the house trying to swat a fly. Once the fly lands on the ceiling the old lady jumps onto the ceiling and eats the fly. Then Kurama said, okay, something is definitely wrong here. Really, in here I thought it was a town for retired old ninjas that's lived past their prime, Naruto said as the old lady jumps back onto the floor then creaks her neck and Naruto forgets about the pie and look around to see Vera's neighbor driving a cart with a rolled up rug in the back. Then at that moment one of the sprinkler went off and opened. Seeing it the neighbor freaks out and drives to avoid the water. Then the transformed boy said, I get not wanting to get wet at times, but that was a bit over the top. You're right, I sensed that he was terrified if water, Kurama said. What, like the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz? Rava said. Pretty much, Kurama said. Well then let's follow him, Naruto said before following the old man. As Naruto follows the old man in the cart and the old man was driving to the trash area, the old man gets out of the cart and picks up the rug and walks towards the fenced area. Once outside he stopped, then his legs stretches and he walk over the fence. Then Naruto said, okay, definitely looks like I will be entertained the weekend. He flies though the fence, then he sees the old man pushing one of the dumpster out of the way, revealing a set of door. Upon opening the door, seeing a set of stairs, the timer on the watch went off, reverting Naruto back to his human form. Once back to his human form, the old man turns his head to look behind him to see Naruto, then he drops the rug as he turns fully without moving. Then upon growling at the young preteen the old man, but Naruto with his enhanced speed get out of the way and to the fence, and he climbs over it to the other side, and he was about to run away before he said, gotta return this. Then he jumps in and starts driving away with the old man chasing him. Then said, what is going on around here? Could be some sort of alien invasion, Kurama said. Could be, but where is their base if that's the case? Naruto said as the man's arms sudden stretched and grabbed the cart's frame and started to pull the cart back. So thinking quickly he grabs one of the golf clubs that was in the cart and swing it down in the arm, intending to hurt him, but it went right though, severing the pull of the being pulling the cart. So he quickly drives off, but the OD man jump on top of the cart and tries to grab Naruto, but as Naruto was avoiding getting grabbed he hits something sending the cart flying. As Naruto regained his senses, he sees the old man had recovered and stretched out his arm to grab Naruto and pulls Naruto to himself, but as Naruto was trying to get free, a sprinkler system went off, making the old man let go and run off. Then Naruto asked, "Okay, looks like these beings really don't like water. Wonder if they will melt when touched." Then he runs back to Vera's house. Once back at Vera's house, Naruto entered and was met with Midnight jumping at him and licking him. Then he said, "Hey girl, was you good?" Then he pushes her off him. Then he gets up and turns to Max and Gwen, who was at the sink, and said, "Grandpa, Gwen. What is it, Naruto, and keep it down," Max whispered. "Why?" Naruto asked. "Vera is sleeping," Max replied. "Seriously, it's like 6:30, but that's not the problem right now. There is a secret alien invasion going on here," Naruto said. Then he explained what he did and seen. "Maybe we should investigate a little, but no transforming unless the situation calls for it, because us old people don't forget as much as you think," Max said after thinking a bit. Then thinks at his grandkids. "You know, ever since you've had that watch, you've become a magnet for the weird," Gwen said as Max was walking away. "That's not true, Gwen. I was a magnet long before this, but not in a good way," Naruto said with a downcast tone as he remembers his life before coming to this world. Gwen winces a little as she knew what Naruto was about, then said, "Sorry, I didn't mean it that way." "It's alright, I know," Naruto said as he left the room and followed Max to the next door neighbor's house. As Max opens the house, he said, "Hello, anyone home?" Upon receiving no reply, they entered the house and started to look around before something made Gwen jump. Then Naruto turned on the light, revealing a coat. Then Max said, "Well, nothing here seems out of whack." Naruto took a few steps forward, then said, "Except for that," he rolled in his rug, which seemed to be missing. Then he points to an area of the flooring that seemed to be a lot cleaner than the rest. Later, the family was back in Vera's house and Max said, "Now you two sleep, I'll be in the guest room if you need me. I take it we will continue tomorrow." "That's right, and I will be going for an early walk in the morning, so once I get back, we can continue. Now get some rest," Max said before heading to the guest room. As soon as Naruto was asleep, Kurama and Rava was walking through Naruto's mindscape, and Kurama asked, "So what is it you wanted to show me, Rava?" "It's best to show you rather than tell you," Rava said. "Is it something that shouldn't be possible?" Kurama asked. "I don't know," Rava said then as they were heading to the area where they had placed the pink anodite egg. As the duo reached the place of the anodite egg, which was now slightly bigger, Kurama was shocked as there was another egg, but his one was black as the night. Then he turns to Rava and asked, "Why is there another egg?" "I don't know, Kurama. It appeared when Naruto turned into Ghost Freak," Rava said. Kurama lays down as he thinks, then asked, "Do you think the alien DNA and the anodite power fused to create another being?" "Well, as you said with the boy, it could be possible," Rava said. "I need to speak to Max to see if there is any antidites," Kurama said. "Antidites?" Rava said. "What got a problem with the name?" Kurama asked. "No, was just wondering why you called it that," Rava asked. "We gotta call it something, and I feel its power is the opposite as the anodites," Kurama said. "Got a point there," Rava said, then asked, "So when will you speak to Max?" "Once this fiasco is sorted," Kurama replied. Then they left the area. The next morning, Naruto looked in the fridge for a drink and only saw prune juice, then asked, "Hey Gwen, why does it seem that old people always seem to be old?" Gwen didn't answer and saw Vera coming and asked, "Morning, Aunt Vera, how did you sleep?" "Just fine, how about you?" Vera replied, asked, and was about to pinch Naruto's cheeks when Midnight got between them and growled at Vera, making her jump back. Naruto quickly pets Midnight on the head and said, "Calm down girl, it's just Aunt Vera." Then the dog stopped growling. Then he turns to Vera and said, "We slept good. I made you some coffee," Gwen said while holding a tray with a mug and a glass of water, but she accidentally drops it, then quickly said, "Sorry," as the water spreads on the floor. As the water come closer to Vera, she quickly jumps and does the splits and said, clean it up right now." Is this why Midnight was growling at Aunt Vera? Because she has been replaced, Naruto thought as he saw Gwen taking a quick glance at him. Gwen looked back at Naruto, then looks back toward Vera, then said, "I'm sorry," then starts cleaning up mess. Vera gets down and sees Max gone, then asks, "Where did your grandfather go?" "He said he was going for an early walk," Gwen replied. Vera looks at the two preteens, then said, "Well, behave yourself, I'll be back soon," then goes and walks out of the house. The moment Vera was gone, Naruto said, "Vera is now one of them." "One of what?" Gwen asked. Whatever is going on around here, which was why Midnight growled at her. She sensed Vera wasn't Vera, which mean anyone could be one of them, Naruto said. Latre that day Naruto and Gwen was wandering sneaking around with Midnight when Gwen asked, "So where are we heading?" "Well, first we need to get to the trapdoor under the dumpster. After that, well, I'll think of something at the time," Naruto replied as he hides as two old people was walking by before continuing heading to the trash. As they were getting closer, Naruto said, "It's just up ahead. Just follow the disgusting smell," Gwen said. As the duo passed two old people playing shuffleboard, then all of a sudden, they hissed and starting to swing their poles and launching the pucks at them. Then Gwen said as a puck flew past her, "Duck. Run," Naruto said, also dodging a puck, but luckily Midnight sensed her master was in danger. T was faster and caught the pucks, crushing them as she does with others' pucks that came towards them, and Naruto said, "Good girl, I will give you a nice treat once this is over, but keep playing fetch with the old ladies." Then they escaped by hiding behind a wall. Then Max appeared and asked, "Guys, what's going on?" "They're everywhere," Naruto said. "I know, I'll protect you, now come here," Max said before showing he and also one of them. Upon seeing Max was one of them, Gwen said, "Let's get out of here." Then the duo legged it, and as they were running before they stopped as they were being blocked by Vera and two others as they were holding up a car. Then they chucked it at the two kids. As the car came toward them, Naruto said, "Not good." Then he quickly grabbed Gwen and used his speed managed to get out of the way of the car and Max, who was chasing them, and managed to get on the other side of the gate. Then Naruto said, "Might need some extra muscle," activated the watch, then transform into Wild Mutt, then picks up the dumpster, then throws it at the aliens, then growls at Gwen. Gwen looks at trapdoors, then said, "Got it." Then she starts to open the doors. She said, "That's scary, I'm starting to understand Mutt." Then Naruto looks at to see Vera and the others start to reform and coming at them, so Naruto gets Midnight and put Gwen in his back and jumps down the trapdoor the moment it was opened. Once at the bottom of the hole, Gwen said as she was gaining her bearings, "Does the expression 'look before you leap' mean anything to you?" Only for Naruto to roar at her. Then she looks up to see the aliens crawling down the wall of the cave. Then she said, "Move it," making Naruto run with Midnight following behind and the aliens behind her. After managing to loose then aliens, then Naruto stopped, and Gwen sees there was 3 tunnels. Then she said as she gets off Naruto, "These tunnels must go under the whole complex." Naruto then senses something was behind them and quickly bits then stretched out arms, then he pulls it to reveal the alien that took the form of Max. Then a fight broke out. Then as Naruto was about hurt the alien, it spoke in Max's voice, "Now you wouldn't want to hurt your grandpa Max now, would ya?" Which caused Naruto to hesitate, which gave the alien the opening it needed to kick Naruto away. As Naruto got his bearing back, Gwen climbed on top and said, "Hey short, dumb and hairy, rule 1 that is not grandpa, he's an alien freak, which leads us to rule 2, we kick alien butt." Then Naruto charged at the alien, making him fly into the wall, making it part of the wall collapse. Then he took a moment to get the way to go before heading full speed down the tunnel, making Gwen say, "Whoa, you don't come with seat belts, remember?" Then the timer went off, making Naruto turn back, but just after smashing though a wall. Then upon standing up she said, "Hey freak show, what do I look like to you, a crash test dummy?" "Yeah you do," Naruto said as he looked around. Then he said, "Look, I don't know what it is, but I picked something up which came from here, which was why I went through the wall." Then he see Midnight come, thought the hole he made. Then he said, "Glad you made it," then started to go down a tunnel. Once they got to a large opening, they saw a spaceship and a lot of pods. Then Gwen, "Look like we found what you picked up." Then as they entered the cavern, as the trio got closer to ship, Gwen said, "It's like everyone in retirement village has been potted up." As Naruto was looking though the pods, he sees the one that was holding Max. Then he said, "Grandpa." Then he rips open the pod. As Max was coming to, he said, "Whoa, I was out for a walk then." Then he groans. Then he continued, "I can't remember what happened next." Then Naruto started to look at the other pods. Then as he was about to open, Vera said, "I wouldn't do that if I were you." "Well, it's good that you're not me then," Naruto said. "Not yet, I'm not." Then one that Naruto was tailing the day before, they reverted to semi-humanoid blobs that mostly green in color with dirty pink-colored organs. They also have multiple eyes. And they have no definite appearance, often having extra arms, fin-like protrusions, or misshapen body parts. "Well, that gross," Naruto said. "You can fill me in later," Max said as the family backed up. As the family was backing, Gwen touched the ship, which opened the ship, making her stumble. After gaining her balance, she turned and gasped as she said, "Look what's back here," as there was a lot of pods. Max turns to look then said, their ship. Then one of the aliens said, they've found we can't let them out, then the ship's lights came. Get the pods on board now they've been marinating long enough, another one. Marinating, Max asked no one in particular then looks at Naruto and thinks, what are you going to do Naruto you like to help those in need because of what you went through. Then Gwen noticed one of the pods that was already in the ship and said, you were right Naruto they have Aunt Vera. Oh is that so, Naruto said as his hair covered his eyes as he looked at the watch which was still recharging then to the aliens asked, I know what you my marinating, but you made one big mistake. Oh and what was that, one of the aliens asked. Naruto lifts his head to show his eyes which instead violet eyes was now fox-like with blood-red iris then he said, you have pissed me off. Back in the ship Midnight was cowering in fear behind one of the pods Gwen asked, what's going on grandpa? You know I told you some of Naruto past, Max said. Yeah, that for 5 years he was alone betrayed and had multiple attempts to his live a day, Gwen replied. Yeah and because of that he has trust issues and kept to himself for the first year before letting me and his parents get close to him and another year before he started to hug us and is still going to therapy, Max said. What's that got to do with him now, Gwen asked. Well because of how we have treated him over the years because of Kurama he is very protective of family and don't want anyone to feel a glimpse of what he went through. I see but what can he do is the watch on still recharging, Gwen asked. Keep this in mind when it comes to Naruto the watch isn't the only thing he has and when he is like this Midnight tends to be a little scared of Naruto until it's over, Max said while looking at Gwen then turns to Naruto and said, Naruto if you're going to use that then you have 5 minutes. I know the power is too great for my body to handle until I turn 15 or 16, Naruto said as he took a few deep breaths then his eyes begins to glow then to everyone except for Max there was 2 figures behind Naruto then in a fire-like effect merged with Naruto then his body begins to transform and once the transformation was done there was a tall humanoid fox as tall as 4 arms and most of his body is covered in black, skin-tight fabric he is wearing knee-high purple and yellow boots and purple and yellow gauntlets he also wearing a purple cuirass sand shoulder guards and a purple, traditional kitsune-style half-mask which obscures its human-like face. It also has ankle-length black hair tied into pigtails. It wields a long, silver staff with several rings. You think just because you had a transformation you think you can beat me, the alien said. Naruto didn't speak but puts the staff in the ground then did some hand signs then took the deep breath and when he exhaled he created a fireball and shot it at the aliens BTU they didn't move then the aliens merged to form one big alien while saying, you fool you made a big mistake we Limax live the heat why do you think we choose the desert in the middle of your summer, but Naruto doesn't say anything instead he picked up his staff and begins to walk forward then he starts to beat the giant Limax. Meanwhile Max and Gwen was getting the pods out of the ship BTU the giant Limax noticed and 2 Limax separated from it body and as Gwen was trying to pick another pod then Limax swing it arm breaking the back that Gwen had causing the contents to go over the floor making Midnight jump on front of her master's cousin growling at the Limax. One of the Limax noticed there was a water gun by its foot making the 2 aliens retreat a little then Gwen remembered the reaction Vera had after she dropped the glass of water then quickly picking up the gun. She ran after them then squirts them making them dissolve then he shouted, Naruto they hate water. Once again Naruto doesn't say anything but he turns his head to see a water pipe then twirls the staff then throws it breaking the pipe and embedding in the wall then the giant Limax let go of Naruto to dodge the water but as Naruto was close enough to the puddle that was forming don't another set of hand signs and when it was done the puddle began to ripple and a dragon was forming then it headed to the Limax dissolving it. Meanwhile Max and Gwen was getting the last of the pods out of the ship as the engine was getting warmed up Max said, sorry there is no drive-through service here. Then ran out the ship as he was exiting the ship a Limax entered the ship and a few moments later it took off then Max said as Naruto turned back to normal and fainted, we better put them back in their condos. But that could take us hours, Gwen said then she looks at Naruto then said, what was that form Naruto took? That was Naruto's power the one he was born with but normally it's a second system inside him like a veins but when Naruto used was a jutsu that brought him here there was a side effect which removed the system as well as Kurama's and merged them then gave it a conscious which he named Rava and that was the being that white, Max explained. I see and what of the 9-tailed fox that appeared next to it, Gwen asked. That would be Kurama, Max replied. Got that right, Naruto said as he sits up, but as he opened his eyes, they were the fox-like style. Glad you're up, Naruto, Gwen said. Sorry girlie, I'm not who you think I am, Naruto said. Huh, what do you mean? Gwen asked. What can we do for you, Kurama? Max asked. I need to speak to you about something private, Kurama said. Very well, Max said, then he turns to Gwen and said, you need to stay here. Then both he and Naruto, Kurama walked out the cavern. Then once they were out of earshot, the old man asked, so what do you want to talk to me about? What do you know about black antidites, Naruto, Kurama asked. Nothing, as there is no such thing as black antidites, only the one that the egg you have inside. Why do you ask? Max said, asked. Because Naruto has a black anodite egg next to his normal one, and I feel it is the opposite of an anodite, so I am named it Antidote, Naruto, Kurama replied. Well, seeing as it shouldn't exist, I supposed it's right to name it that, as it seemed the opposite of an anodite, Max said, thinking about it. Then he said, let's get back to Naruto can recover and we can put the resident back into their condos, but before Kurama could take a step he just collapsed. Then Max picks him up and said, you must have been more exhausted than you replied. Then heads back to the Kraken, then asked, so where were we? You were telling me about Naruto transformation and why he collapsed like that, Gwen replied. Well, with the amount of power Rava process puts a great amount of strain on Naruto's growing body and should be able to handle it when he is around 15 or 16, and that will happen when he transforms, Max said, finishing his explanation. After half an hour, Naruto woke up and Midnight was nudging her master, and Naruto said as he pets her, it's alright girl, I'm fine now. Then he turns to Max and Gwen and asked, so what's happening now? Well, right now we were waiting for you to wake up so you can help us get these people back into their condos, Max said. Okay, Naruto said, then using his enhanced speed and strength got Max, Gwen, and Midnight on the surface. They said, I will get the pods while you two get them out. Then before Max Gwen could say anything, Naruto was gone and was getting the pods out every few minutes. Once that was done, Max was fixing Naruto a hearty meal. Then as he presented it, he said, here you Naruto, you earned this. Thanks grandpa, Naruto said before starting to eat. After a few hours, the family was beginning to leave and Vera said, don't be strangers now. Don't worry, we won't, Max said before heading into the RV. Gwen walks up next and said, bye Aunt Vera. Bye dear, Vera said as she kneels down and puts her hands on Gwen's shoulders, then give her a little hug. Then Gwen walks into the RV. So how are you doing Naruto? Vera asked. Still a little exhausted, Naruto said stiffly, a yarn, then gives Vera a hug. Then you better have a rest on the road and have fun, Vera said. Don't worry about that, I plan to, Naruto said before heading back into the RV. Then Max dove off and it didn't take long for Naruto to fall asleep. The day after Tennyson's continued their trip, they stopped in the middle of the desert and Max said to Naruto, who was laying on the ground with Midnight next to him, alright Naruto, time to do training. Naruto, who was still feeling the effects of his transformation, looked at Max then said with a groan as well as sitting up, alright, let's get started. That's the spirit my boy, Max said before he started to make a makeshift obstacle course. Gwen, who was watching Naruto, who was a little wobbly, asked, Grandpa, will Naruto be alright as he wasn't like this yesterday? Max sighed before taking a quick glance at Naruto then said, he will be fine, this is what happens when he uses that transformation. Because of the strain that this Rava puts on his body, right? Gwen said. Max just nodded as he continued building, and once it was set up and Naruto was in the middle of it, he said, you ready Naruto? I am, Naruto said. Let's see what you can do without the watch, Max said before pulling a lever and the obstacle course started. After some time Naruto started to feel the strain even more and starts to slow down, then said, Grandpa, do you mind if we stop here? Sure, I was going to say about stopping as I was noticing you slowing down, and I don't want to push it too much, Max said. Then the family gets into the RV and Max begins to drive off. As Max was driving, Gwen looked at Naruto and asked, Naruto, why don't you rely on the watch like so many other people would? Because I know I don't want to be too reliant on it as it can cause more harm than good, Naruto replied. Good answer Naruto, Max said. Speaking from experience, Gwen asked. Naruto shakes his head then said, kinda. This has to do with chakra, doesn't it? Max said. Yeah, it does, as it is common to know that chakra is also tied to our lives, so if we push ourselves too much, we can become bedridden or we can die, Naruto said. What, and you used that power? Gwen said, freaking out at the news. Calm down, Gwen, Naruto said, making Gwen to calm down. Then he continued, normally you wouldn't have to worry about chakra exhaustion for two reasons. The first one, no one really uses that much chakra outside of battle other than using the body flicker technique or leaping over buildings. The second one is over time chakra will replenish itself over time, and well, there is a third, but that one is unique to me alone. Why is that? Gwen asked. That's because my chakra became fundamentally different 6 years ago, Naruto said. Max took a quick glance at the grandchildren, then asked, is this because of the transfer and transfusion which created Rava? That's right, well, that's one of Kurama's theory anyway, Naruto said. I am not following, Gwen said. Oh yeah, I didn't tell you in on what made Kurama to the space-time jutsu that caused Naruto to come to our universe. You know that Naruto wasn't liked in his home universe, right? Max asked. That's right, and you sigh that he was beaten every day for as long as Naruto could remember, Gwen replied. That's an understatement, Naruto mumbled, but loud enough for Max to hear it. I tried to keep it to the sugar-coated version, the one that we use for the school, so she would freak out, Max said. Keep what sugar-coated? Gwen asked. The attacks I got, what Grandpa told you would have been one of my good days, Naruto said as Midnight let out a small whine, sensing her master's discomfort about the topic. Surely it can't be that bad, Gwen said. Knowing what Naruto was about to do, Max quickly said, don't do it just yet, Naruto, we will be at our next stop soon as need to make sure the engine is holding up. When they got to the location that Max was talking about, they got out and Naruto said, wow, talk about a ghost town. And it's been like this for some time, and according to the internet this place is called Slaterville, was incorporated in 1857-1850s after the discovery of silver, and then in the 1950s it went bust as the mine ran out silver, Gwen explained. That's great thought, I would have appreciated it if it didn't sound like a book report, Naruto said before turning to face Gwen, then said, have you ever wondered why most of the time you see me I am usually wearing long sleeves? Sometime, Gwen replied, only for Naruto to remove his shirt. Then Gwen gasped in surprise seeing Naruto's torso and back covered in scars. Then she asked, how did you get that many? We already told you what Grandpa told you was just a sugar-coated version of it, but I was beaten, poisoned, and any other form of assault you can imagine. Chances are I have been on the receiving end of it, and the last attack I had would have killed me if Kurama didn't know the space-time jutsu which landed me right in front Mom and Dad, and in order to save my life Dad did a blood transfusion which created Rava, Naruto said as he puts his shirt back on. Then he turned to Max, who was shocked. Max, who had heard what Naruto just said to Gwen, thought, could they have assaulted him? Then he noticed Naruto looking at, then said, what's up, Naruto? I will going to look around, Naruto. Then he turns to Midnight and said, be a good girl and stay and look after Grandpa. Then after receiving a bark he then walks off. Max looks at Gwen and said, maybe you should go with him. And make sure he doesn't do anything stupid, Gwen said before going to look for Naruto. As Naruto entered a building he said, wonder what kind of place this was back when it was still mining. Then he heard Gwen calling him and sneakily looked out to see Gwen. Then he looks at the watch and smiles. Are you trying to pull the same trick you did at Vera's house? You know it won't on her again, right? Rava asked. Yeah, I know, but we are in a literal ghost town, so I am hoping it would work again, Naruto replied. I say go for it, kid, really want to see if it works, Kurama said. You are not helping me here, Rava said. What do you expect from me? I am a kitsune, Kurama said. You do have a point there, Rava said after thinking about it. Alright, let's do this, Naruto said before Rava could try and persuade Naruto or not doing this and activate the watch, and turned it to Ghost Freak turned with a flash of light alerting Gwen where he was. As Gwen was standing outside the building she said, hello, calling all dimwits, and upon not getting an answer she walks in, and after a few minutes Naruto float behind her and flies though her making her shiver. Naruto seeing his adopted cousin shiver chuckled a little and said, what the matter, Gwen, you look like you have seen a ghost. Then he became visible before floating right up to her face and said, freak. Gwen, who didn't seem faced BTU Naruto attempt to scare her, said, get over it, Naruto, you don't scare me. I supposed I don't, seeing as I tried this trick while at Vera's, Naruto, Ghost Freak said. Let me guess you, though it wouldn't work, but you still tried it because we are in a ghost town, Gwen said, which got a nod from Naruto. Ghost Freak. Then all of a sudden the ground started to shake and something was moving underground and towards them, so Naruto quickly grabs Gwen and floats out of the way. Then all of a sudden a crab with a goldish brown colored armor came out of the ground and it had 4 scythe-like legs and a large, powerful pincer for a left hand. Then she said, "But he does." Then the crab started to walk towards the 2 preteens. As the crab was walking towards them, Naruto said, "I can handle this." Then he flies over to the crab and said, "Man, I don't think I have a big enough pot to out you in. Hand over the Omnitrix and I promise you will not suffer," the crab said as he lifts up his claw. "The Omni what now?" Naruto, Ghost Freak asked confused. Then he moves his lone eye to look at Gwen and asked, "What this Omni thing?" "First of all, it's Omnitrix and use that head of yours. He is an alien who happens to want something of similar technology, and what is the only thing around here what meets the description," Gwen said. "Cool name and there's no need to be mean, Gwen," Naruto, Ghost Freak said. Then the eye moved to look at the crab. Then he said, "Sorry Krabby, but the watch and I are kinda attached." "Not for long," the crab said while opening and closing his claw. "Well, I don't think you will let us go, so get ready," Naruto, Ghost Freak said. "You have no idea who you are messing with, do you?" the crab asked. "Nope, but if I had a guess, I would say someone's bad science project," Naruto, Ghost Freak replied. Then he disappeared, scaring Gwen, who ran and hid. The crab took a few steps back while looking around. Naruto, Ghost Freak rose from the ground behind the crab and was about to attack BTU. The crab's head turned to look Naruto, Ghost Freak and said, "Are you that much of a dimwit that you didn't think I wouldn't know about your intangibility ectonerite?" Then spray something over Naruto, Ghost Freak. Upon being hit with the gunk that the crab shot, Naruto became tangible and said, "What the hell, what's going on? Your protoplasm has now been solidified, making it easier to do this," the crab said before giving Naruto, Ghost Freak a punch, sending him to the wall. This isn't good. It's clear he knows about this species' power and is an experienced fighter, Naruto, Ghost Freak thought as he looked up to see the crab about to step on him, so he dodges it, then goes to attack BTU. The crab swing his claw, which sends the transformed preteen flying to where Gwen is. As he was struggling to get up, Gwen came over to help him and Naruto, Ghost Freak asked, "Who is this guy?" "No clue. And are you okay?" Gwen asked. "Not really, seeing as this would set my recovery back a little," Naruto, Ghost Freak said. "You are the one with the watch, can you do something?" Gwen said. "I try and do something," Naruto, Ghost Freak said before flying back at the crab, then said, "You better keep your claws to yourself." But the crab didn't say anything but got a bit of gap between him and Naruto, then shot at Naruto, sending him towards a control panel. As the crab was walking over to Naruto, Ghost Freak, he said, "This was hardly worth the hunt." Gwen then looked at where the crab was walking and sees the power panel next to Naruto, then said, "Naruto, give him a lift." Naruto looks at Gwen, then said, "Huh?" Then looked behind him, then said, "Oh, I get it now." Then he pulled the lever and the lift that the crab was on went up, hitting the roof. Then Naruto said, "I don't know what's more impressive, that the power is still on after all this time, or the fact that the lift actually went that high. Only thought that happened in cartoons." Then the timer went off. "Naruto, are you okay?" Gwen asked as she runs over to Naruto. Naruto looked up and said, "Remind me never to transform until I am better. I think that puts more strain on my body and there is something going on with Ghost Freak transformation," then struggles to get up. "Come on, let's get out of here before Crab Cake gets free," Gwen said as she helps Naruto up and leaves the building, unaware of the other being in the building watching them. As Naruto and Gwen got back to the RV, Max was wiping his hands and he asked, "Hey guys, what happened?" "Oh, you know the usual, some jumbo-sized crustacean bust out of the ground and attacked Naruto," Gwen replied as she sets Naruto on a seat before turning back to Max before continuing. "It looked like it wanted the watch, only it kept calling it the Omnitrix." "So what happened to you?" Max asked, turning to Naruto. "Well, apart from getting my backside handed to me, I don't think transforming after that transformation is a bad idea," Naruto said, giving himself a little starch and wincing a little bit. "Well then head inside as the everything is fine," Max said. As Max was driving away, Gwen was looking out the window and she said, "No sign of crab legs." Then all of a sudden Midnight stood up and started to growl, then something landed on top of the RV and buzzsaw came thought the roof, and Gwen said, "I think we just picked up a hitchhiker." And a pointed fingers reaching in and tore the roof away. Then a being wearing a black and purple armor with purple pads covering his central joints, a belt, and 4 central lines on his helmet to provide outlines for his face, which are his eyes and mouth, and appeared speaking gibberish, causing Gwen to scream, then asks, "What is that?" "I don't know, but I think it wants the Omnitrix," Naruto said as the armored being reached in to grab Naruto. Max sees the alien trying to grab Naruto, so he hit the brakes, making the alien to fly off the RV. Then Max runs him over with a smile, but it quickly disappeared as the RV suddenly had a puncture. So upon getting out and sees each tire has multiple stacks in them, then sees a mining tunnel and said, "Quick in there." Then the three human and alien dog headed to the tunnel as fast as they can. Midnight stopped and barked at Naruto and gestured with her head to the mining cart. Naruto, understanding the gesture, said as he pats her head, "I know you're strong, girl, but I don't think you are strong enough to push something that rusted." Then upon entering they quickly hid. Then after a few minutes Naruto looks down the tunnel and not seeing anyone coming he said, "Looks like we are in the clear." Then all of a sudden the crab alien shot out of the ground and Naruto said, "Oh come on." Then they ran off with the crab following behind. Then as the family took a sharp turn the crab ran into a cart, tripping him and go into the wall. As the family got outside and sees they're trapped, Gwen asked, "Now what?" Max looked around and sees a cable car, then said, "We take a ride," then heads to the car with the crab alien close behind. Once there the children got inside with the dog and Max pulls the lever, then jumps into the car before it got too far, narrowly missing the alien, who said, "What sorry excuse for prey," then was about to cut the cable, was shot at by the armored alien, who then heads towards the car while shooting at it. Gwen peeks out to see the armored alien flying toward then said, "We have incoming component and coming fast. We need a plan," Max said, then looks at Naruto, who was pushing the button on the watch, then asked, "What are you doing?" "What does it look like, Grandpa?" Naruto said. Then the faceplate on the now identified Omnitrix popped up, then slams the plate down. Realizing what Naruto was doing, Max said, "No Naruto, you said that the transformation puts a strain on your weakened body and that's what it wants." Naruto, who transformed into Diamond Head, and said, "I don't care about the stain, I will power though it if it means protecting the one I care about." Then he jumps in onto the armored alien, taking it in the hole. Max and Gwen looked down and Max shouted, "Naruto." Then the alien flew out with Naruto still attached, then flies into a wall, and as they were about to enter a tunnel, Ma said, "Naruto, come on. I'll catch up BTU first, I need to put some dents into this Snake Eyes wannabe." Naruto, Diamond Head, only to notice too late that the crab was behind him and grabbed Naruto by his arm and flings him over to the wall. But Naruto wasn't one to go down without a fight, no matter the odds, attacked them, but was easily overpowered and was once again flung at a wall. The armored alien was walking to Naruto. The crab stopped him by saying, "Back off, that reward is mine." But the other alien spoke. The crab then said, "Well, you don't have to get personal," only for a ball to hit his leg. Then all of a sudden, the ball released a gas, knocking out the two alien. Off to the side stood a third being on what looked like a hoverboard. Once they knew the two other aliens was knocked out, he flew over to Naruto and grabbed him by his shoulder shards and exited the mining site. Once outside, the third alien tossed Naruto, who slid along the ground and hits a cart and groaned in pain. Then the alien said, "Billions of being on this planet and the Omnitrix winds up on the wrist of a foolhardy youth who doesn't know when to run. And like I told those two back there, the watch doesn't come off, and believe I've tried." Naruto, Diamond Head said, "Of course it doesn't," the alien said, getting up close to Naruto before saying, "The Omnitrix's power utilizes the alien DNA, which binds to the host's own genetic structure. It cannot be removed like taking of a hat." Then he turns back to Naruto and said, "I am surprised you didn't attack with my back turned." "And why would I do something as dishonorable as that?" Naruto, Diamond Head stated as he sat down and leaned agents a cart. "Well, with your choice of warriors, which is based on brute force," the alien said. "So what is, you said I am a foolhardy youth, plus how do you know I didn't have a plan, plus I have kicked some alien butt," Naruto said. "Such as your recent success in the mineshaft with the bounty hunters," the alien said. "Hey, it was two agents on, so sorry for being a greenhorn," Naruto, Diamond Head said. "You was mere moments away from losing your life and the Omnitrix," the alien said, trying to relay the importance of the device that is on Naruto's waist, then said as walks up to Naruto, "The Omnitrix isn't some toy for your amusement, it is the most powerful weapon in the galaxy, the key to an epic battle between good and evil. So this thing is a weapon, huh? That might be one use for it," Naruto, Diamond Head said as he looks at his chest. Then he turns to the alien then asks, "So which side are you on?" "You're still alive, aren't you?" the alien replied. That's true, but how do I know that you saved me so you can gain my trust, Naruto, Diamond Head? Not on to trust so easily are you, the alien said. I have had my fair share of backstabbers in my life, so no I'm not, Naruto, Diamond Head replied. I have a mission to retrieve the Omnitrix at all costs, and seeing as it's attached to you I will have to bring you with me to get it removed, the alien said. Yeah, if you think I am going anywhere with you then you have another thing coming, Naruto, Diamond Head said. You don't have a choice in the matter, the alien said. Like hell I do, Naruto, Diamond Head said before attacking the alien. After a few minutes, the alien manages to throw Naruto off him, then he said as he gets up, it's disturbing how little you know of this alien's strength and weaknesses, you have barely touched the surface of its potential. Well sorry I don't know what aliens are out there, Naruto, Diamond Head said, then as he gets up asks, also how do you know about this alien's potential? This is how, the alien said before the helmet retracted and revealing to be a Petrosapien. Upon seeing a Petrosapien Naruto was shocked then said, well that a good answer. Then as he looks into the Petrosapien's eyes he can see he has some regret, then thought, what has he done to have the regret? I am sure you will find out one day Kit, Kurama said, then the timer went off turning Naruto to normal. Once Naruto was back to normal, he just collapsed and said with a groan, why did I do that again? To protect Max and Gwen, Rava said knowing it was a rhetorical question. You and I both know I didn't need that answered, but this pain is worth it knowing those I care about are safe, Naruto thought back. We have wasted enough time, the Petrosapien said before walking up to Naruto and picked him up. Hey, I do not consent to being manhandled, Naruto said in protest, but the Petrosapien wasn't paying attention to Naruto as he was looking around. Just then the crab alien made its presence known and said while holding up the hoverboard and said, looking for this you are not getting off this planet with the Omnitrix, and just to make sure, then looks behind himself. Behind the crab alien was the purple armor alien who was manhandling Gwen and dragging Max, and Midnight who was attacking the chain TR=Yang to get free, and Max said, hands off. Let me go, Gwen said. Naruto was shocked, then the crab alien continued. You see we have decided to work together and split the reward and you in half. Then he shot at Naruto, but the Petrosapien shielded Naruto then headed to a building then threw him to the floor. As the crab alien was shooting the building Naruto said with anger in his tone and eyes crimson. What are we doing? We have to save them. The Petrosapien then picks Naruto up and said, don't be foolish, keeping the Omnitrix secure is the priority here. Naruto's increased a bit more and he said, not to me, they are my family. You cannot save them, you would soon be overpowered and captured. The obvious choice is for me to retrieve my hoverboard so we may leave this planet. Then he put Naruto on the floor and said, stay here. Then jumps out the building, and with the ability that Petrosapiens have, shot shots at the armored alien, knocking the alien over, freeing Max, Gwen and Midnight. Then he rushed at the crab and with some skill got his hoverboard back, and the armored alien stood back up and started to shoot at the Petrosapien, but the Petrosapien dodged and then jumped and landed on the armored alien, making a little crater, making Max, Gwen and Midnight to take cover. Then after giving the alien 2 punch sent him fling, then Quickie made a shield as the alien sent rockets at him, then flipped the crab alien who jumped behind him, and he landed near the building where Naruto was. Naruto takes a look outside to see the crab alien land here where he was and looked at the Omnitrix just in time for it to see it flash signaling it was recharged. Then he said, light, time to help out now, let's see if it has anything with brains. Then he looks to see the crab alien looking at him, so he hides. Then he activates the Omnitrix and said, 4 arms, nope, seeing as I am dealing with something that need brains more than brawn. Then he turns the dial a few times to see the only alien he hasn't used yet, then whispered, hope you have some brains. Then pushed the dial down, then triggering the transformation. Then once it was done he said as he looks at himself, well, at least I am small and it appears that it has a more gray matter, which is perfect for my current problem as well as a name. Quickly get out of the way as the crab alien destroys the table he was hiding behind. He makes his onto the beam to get to the head. Once Naruto landed on top of the alien said as he tried to get Naruto off of him, hey, get off of me, you tiny little BTU. Naruto did get off as he reeled down the crab's neck, then reach into a gap and started to fiddle around, then said, there's sold be a nerve cluster in here somewhere. Then he pulls out a bunch of wires tearing them and the alien started to groan in pain as he started to move erratically. Then after pulling out some more wire the alien suddenly stopped and his head started to spin like crazy before suddenly stopping. Then he went quirt and falls backwards. Then Naruto crawls out and said, "That's one down, one more." As Naruto gets close we see the Petrosapien getting beaten. Then he whistles getting everyone's attention. Then as the Aruet alien brought out his rockets Naruto said, "Midnight attack." Then alien dog attacked the arm that was aimed at Naruto. Then Naruto quickly jumps onto the alien's back and said, "Guess who?" Then turns to his dog and said, "Midnight back." Then the dog lets go and goes back to Max. The alien that was helping Naruto said, "I told you to stay out of my way." Naruto, who ignored the alien, said as he was fiddling around, "I wonder what would happen if I do this." Then he pulls a few wires making the armored alien take a fly-in with no flight plans and ends up next to the crab alien. Then Naruto looks back to see the water tower that the alien he was just riding on crashed coming towards them. Then said, "Gotta go." Then as fast as he can got out of the way. The crab alien sees the water tower coming towards them said, "I hate this planet." "Welcome to Earth," Naruto said, not stopping and managed to get put of the way before the water tower hit them. Then he turns to his family and new friend and said, "One way to beat the desert heart. And you think pretty smart for a human," the Petrosapien said, then pulls out a gun device with a cub in the middle and aims it at the two beaten aliens and fires it, and the cube was in between the two aliens and then it expands encasing the two aliens, then shinks with the two still inside. As the Petrosapien went to pick the cube up the Omnitrix's Tiamer went off. Then as he puts the cube into his belt then turns back to the Tennysons with Naruto laying back on the ground in pain and said, "I will return as soon as I am able." "So what about the Omnitrix?" Max said, knowing Naruto isn't able to speak. The alien looks at Naruto then said, "It's on good hands until then." Then hands Max his hoverboard and said, "And this might be of use in the meantime." "Thanks you, and I am sure Naruto will appreciate it as well," Max said. Then the Petrosapien moves away and then the helmet closed. Then he pulls out a device and pushes a button and with a red ripple disappeared. As Max gently lifts Naruto up and takes him to RV and Gwen asked, "How come he gets all the cool alien stuff?" "It probably just his luck at play," Max said, knowing that Naruto can be very lucky. Then he turns to Midnight, who is following him. When Naruto is up, make sure he doesn't mess with the Omnitrix, and Midnight barks as if saying sure. As Max was driving to the next location, Naruto, who is now recovered, was now sitting next to the window and there was a car driving next to the RV with a boy in the back and he was making faces trying to get a reaction from Naruto and he thinks, "I swear if he continues that I will turn into an alien and scare him." "I say do it now," Kurama said, watching what Naruto was seeing. "Now you two, there is no need to scare the boy to death," Rava said, then looking though Naruto's eyes sees the boy take a bite of a burger, then takes a few bites, then sticks out his tongue with the chewed up burger. Then he said, "Alright, I take it back, scared to boy." Naruto then hid from the boy, then brought the Omnitrix up and then activating it and turned into Stinkfly. Then he stood up and looked out the window to the boy, made a few faces making the boy drop the food out of his mouth. Then he screamed. Then Naruto quickly hid all the while laughing. "There is such a thing as taking a joke too far, you know," Gwen said, looking at Naruto, who was on his back laying on the floor. "Properly, but the voices in my head said to do it also. If you think this is bad you should see some of the pranks if done, Naruto," Stinkfly said in between laughs. "Naruto, get up here," Max said before stopping suddenly, making Naruto slide toward the front of the RV. When Max looks at Naruto he said in surprise, "Oh good, you're ready to go because we have trouble ahead," before looking forward, making Naruto to do so as well, to see an oil truck and a delivery truck had an accident and the former lorry was leaking oil and there was a fire too. "The door is stuck, the driver can't get out," a watcher said. "If that propane he's hauling catches fire," Max said. "Yeah, I get it, there will be a big bang, and the driver will have a one-way ticket to the moon," Naruto, Stinkfly said as he gets up and walks to the door and flies to the tanker. As Naruto was working, Max said to the crowd, "Come on folks, give the giant bug do his work." As Naruto was trying to put the fire out, he said, "What can I do?" "Open like a can," Rava said. Naruto, understanding what his chakra entity was saying, flies back a little, then uses his goo to put the fire out. Then he lands on the truck and with its tail digs into the roof and then he opens it up. Then he grabbed the driver and flew off, and when he landed he said, "The stink saves lives." Then the boy that Naruto scared a few minutes ago screamed, That's the monster that ate that kid. Well, will you look at that, I am needed elsewhere, Naruto, Stinkfly said before flying off to hide for the transformation to wear off. Max then walks back to the RV and starts to drive, making Gwen ask, what about the dimwit? Don't worry about him, he will catch us with us when he is back to normal, plus it would look suspicious if we stay here, Max said. Good point, Gwen said as she thinks about it. Later, when Naruto was back to normal, he ran to where the crash happened, and he heard Kurama said, talk about rude, Max leaving you like this. He properly left because it would be weird, plus I can catch up with them, Naruto said. I knew that kid, just making a joke, Kurama said. I know that, Kurama, but I still feel like Max, Carl and Sandra are still going to leave me even after all this time, and I don't want to think about it, Naruto said. Upon hearing this, Kurama felt guilty, then said, sorry for the comment, kid. No worries, Naruto said before running down the road he was heading before the crash. When Naruto was back in the RV, they passed a sign and Gwen said, you will have a ball with it. Then as the next sign approached, Gwen said, next exit. Come on grandpa, can you at least give us a hint on what it is, Naruto said. Nah, no hints, I have been planning this stop all summer, plus you and Gwen have a sharp mind so you will get it in no time, Max said. After some time, Max had stopped the RV, then said as he opened the door, alright, you two close your eyes and don't think about using your echolocation, Naruto. Damn, Naruto said as he closed his eyes and walks out the RV. Once they were both outside, Max said, alright, open them up, and when they did, they were standing in front of a sign and Max said, welcome to Sparksville. After looking around, Max said, is this place great or what? I am going to say, or what, seeing as this place is deserted, Naruto said. Come on, what's more exciting than the world's biggest fishbowl, Max said. If it had ramen in it would be a great start, Naruto said, and Midnight barked in agreement. Then man walked up to them while saying, as the mayor of Sparksville, I welcome you, O seekers of wonder. I know you two are properly excited to see it, so I will check us in, Max said before handing 2 tickets to Naruto, then walks off. After a few minutes, the 2 preteens are standing outside a building and Naruto rings the bell, then the mayor walks up to the stand and said, tickets please. Somehow, I am not surprised you're here, Naruto said as he gives the tickets to the mayor. He who wears the crown is burdened by many hats, son, the mayor said as he tears the tickets up. You keep telling yourself that, Naruto said as he walked through the turnstile. As the 2 visitors was about to enter the building, the mayor said, mind the signs. After a while and many pictures with some of the attractions later, they were now out of barn with the mayor, who said, though these doors lie the weirdest, wildest thing to ever to find its way to Sparksville. Then the door opened, and the 2 preteens walked in. As the duo was walking inside the barn, Naruto said, please tell me this is it, otherwise I will be pranking grandpa for the next week, and that includes if the thing is lame. Then a sign lights up and Naruto said, do not tough it. Do not photograph it, Gwen said, reading the next light up signs. No, not use batteries or electrical equipment anywhere near it, both Naruto and Gwen said together. Then the lights turned on and they were standing in front of a large metal box with this is it written on it. When the box was lifted up, it revealed a giant rubber band ball and Naruto said, this is it, with Midnight letting out a disappointed whine. It's a big ball of rubber bands, Gwen said. And who know what secrets lie within, the mayor said. More rubber bands would be my best guess, Naruto said. Stay as long as you like, but mind the signs, the mayor said before walking away. Oh, I am so pranking grandpa when we leave this place for a week we've been had, Naruto said. It is pretty lame, I can't believe grandpa was so excited about this place, Gwen said. Then Naruto walks over to the ball, then she looked at Naruto, who has a mischievous look on his face. Then she said, I know that look, what are you up to, Naruto? Naruto didn't say anything but walking behind the giant ball. Then he activated the Omnitrix and turned into 4 arms, and then he lifted the bull up. Then he said, I was thinking that one good prank deceives another. I can believe I am saying this, but for once I agree, Gwen said with Midnight barked in agreement. Then she asked, so what do you have in mind? I don't know, maybe turn it into the world's biggest bogger, Naruto, 4 arms said, making Gwen laugh. Then he tosses the ball from hand to another. Careful you dweeb, you'll drop it, Gwen said. Not a chance I can lift thing with 3 arms tied behind my Naruto, 4 arms said with his putting 3 arms behind his back, but unfortunately he didn't get to finish as he strain on his single hand was too great, making it twitch, which caused him to drop the ball, which bounced out of the barn by going thought the roof and then around the town, but Naruto managed to grab it, but the force forced him to slide back and slamming into a wall, causing the ball to fly into the cards before stopping. Then Gwen slapped him, making Naruto said, "Ow, what was that for?" "For turning me in a criminal," Gwen said. "Don't get your shouts in a twist," Naruto, 4 arms said to the ball, then said, "I'll just put everything back the way it was, no problem." Then at that moment the timer went off, turning Naruto back to normal. Then B said, "Okay, this might be harder than I originally thought," before running around putting things back to normal. Then as he tried to move the ball he couldn't lift it. Then they walked away unaware of the residual spark from the Omnitrix. "What are we going to tell Grandpa?" Gwen asked. "We say nothing, like the saying goes, ask no questions, tell no lies," Naruto said. "That's easy for you to say, you're better at it than I am," Gwen said. "Not by choice," Naruto said before they headed to the motel, and Midnight occasionally rubs her head on her master's leg. When they entered their room, they saw it was on its side and Max said, "Hey, there you are, isn't this place a riot?" "Why, what did you see? We don't know anything about it," Gwen said nervously. "I think she means that it's great, can't wait to check out the bathroom." The next morning, with Naruto and Gwen still sleeping, Max, who had opened the door to let Midnight out, asked, "What on earth happened here?" Open hearing what Max said, Gwen woke up and said, "He knows everything, we are so busted, we have to come clean and tell Grandpa everything. Sometimes I find it hard, we are the same age, rule number 1, never admit anything as long as you don't get caught, get you in too much trouble." "Naruto, Gwendolyn, get out here now," Max said. "Gwendolyn, we are doomed," Gwen said before she and Naruto got up and went to meet Max. Once outside they saw the two was a mess, and Naruto said, "Was there a party, and if that's the case, where was my invite?" "This is not the time to be making jokes, Naruto, it looks like a tornado blew through there," Max said. Then the mayor walked up to them and said, "I think it pretty clear on who is responsible for these juvenile acts. Now I know Naruto likes to pull pranks, but there is no way he can pull something like this, I think," Max said. "No comment," Naruto said. "Not helping," Gwen said, which got a bark in agreement from Midnight. Naruto looks at Midnight and said, "You traitor," and he got a dog version of a smile in response. "Oh, I am not talking about these youngsters," the mayor said. "Good, because I have idea what happened," Naruto said. "Then if Naruto didn't do it, then who did?" Max said. Just then yellow electricity shot past him and went to Naruto's leg and formed a small battery-looking alien that was black and yellow. Then it zapped around Naruto and Gwen before appearing behind Gwen, and then pulled her shirt over her head before going off somewhere, making Naruto laugh and said, "Whatever that thing is, I like it." "You only like it because of the chaos it causes," Gwen said as puts her shirt back on properly. Ignoring Gwen's statement, Naruto turns to the mayor and asked, "So what was that?" "Megawatt," the mayor said. "A megawatt now?" Naruto asked. "Exactly, normally warped up tight inside of it, that is until last night," the mayor said. Then he goes on to say, "Some say a ball of lighting come alive, others think static run amok, tough to say." "Did you think that it might be an alien?" Gwen asked. "Alien, now that's just plain crazy talk," the mayor said. Then they see the megawatt go into a vending machine and Naruto said, "So what's it doing?" "It eats electricity, the more gobbles up the more powerful it become," the mayor said. Then the vending started to shot drink cans at the 3 tourists and the local, and the mayor said, "It also has a dangerous sense of humor," making then head to a car that was on its side. Once in the clear, Max said, "You had that thing inside a rubber band's ball all this time, isn't that kinda dangerous?" "Not as people mind the signs," the mayor said, then looks at the 2 preteens. "In our defense, you did 2 things wrong. One, you left 2 preteens on their own, and one of which has something attached to his arm, and you had so much hype for that lame thing. So what did you think I was going to do?" Naruto said. "We will be talking about this later, you two," Max said. Then he looks at the mayor and said, "But for now, how do we stop this thing, Mr. Mayor?" "What do you mean you let it, you catch it?" the mayor said as he put a bit of hay in his mouth. As the Tennysons was walking down a street, Gwen asked, "Should we lure it out with some batteries?" unaware of the yellow electricity going through the cable following them. Then the megawatt went up Max's trouser leg. Then the next moment he was up in the air having a wedgie done to him, and he said, "That's not funny, it's just painful." Naruto, who was laughing, walked up to Max, said, Don't worry Grandpa, I know just the hero to deal with a troublemaker like this, before activating the Omnitrix and transformed into Upgrade. Why would Upgrade be the hero? Gwen asked. Would you believe it to be a part of my plan, Naruto? Upgrade said. The watch didn't turn you into the hero you wanted, didn't it? Gwen said. So what it didn't? I can work with this, Naruto, Upgrade said. Then the megawatt went to world biggest ketchup bottle and made the contents overflow, which caused the giant cap fly toward the giant stew chicken, cutting its head off, making people scream and run as it falls to the ground. Naruto, who was on top rubber band ball and rolling it, said, "Alright Twinkle Toes, time for you to go home." But before he had a chance to do anything, the rubber band started to break. The citizens ran away to get away, firing band shards, when Gwen said, "Head doofus, whose side are you on?" "Hey, don't blame me for how old the bands are, Naruto," Upgrade said. Meanwhile, off to the side, the mayor, who was now eating some popcorn, said, "Is it me, or is there a lot more excitement today?" Back with Naruto, the megawatt appeared behind him, laughing at him, making Naruto go mad, and fires a beam at him from his eye. Then he said, "Cool, since when can I do that?" Then he faces the alien and said, "Not so funny now, is it?" But the megawatt just laughed and flew off, but Naruto keeps track on it, and then he goes and tries to catch it, but wasn't lucky until it let its guard down by blowing raspberries at Naruto, which gave Naruto the opportunity to catch the living battery, but was blasted away when the small alien gave a small realize of its power. Then as Naruto gets up, he said, "Okay, so don't touch the living battery unless you are something that doesn't affect me." "How can we ground that electric devil?" Max said. Then Gwen got an idea, and she said, "Grandpa, you're a genius." Then she ran off. Max turned to where Gwen ran off to and said, "Why thank you Gwen, why?" Meanwhile, as Naruto was chasing the alien, he said, "Alright, I've had enough." Then he grabbed a manhole cover and said as he tossed it, "Hey Sparky, catch," but to his surprise it didn't hit the alien with the flat side like he hoped to send into a wall. It cut the alien in half, then it regenerated, so now there are 2 megawatts now, shocking even the megawatts. Then they laughed at each other. "Okay, not what I was hoping for when I tossed the manhole." Then the timer went off. Then Naruto said, "Really, with there was some sort of omnitrix for predators." Then he heard a horn and see a lorry with the world's largest thermometer. Then it stopped and Max grabbed Naruto and pulled him in. Then Naruto said, "Grandpa, what are you doing? Giving these sparklers a science lesson they won't forget," Max said before driving off with the megawatts following. Gwen, who was looking back, said, "Head mega weirds, come and get us." Then she pushes a lever which caused the lorry's bead to rise, dropping the thermometer, and the megawatts get stuck in the thermometer. "Good plan, using the world's largest thermometer as a lightning rod," Naruto said. "Right, so who need an alien superhero when you have good old-fashioned brain power?" Gwen said and pointed to her head. "Of course, the ground is just one big conductor," the mayor said, walking up to them. "What does that mean?" Naruto asked. "Oh no, that means the megawatts are just zipping around underground looking for a watt back to the surface," Gwen said, realizing her mistake. Kurama, who heard what Gwen said, was now laughing and said, "And she says she's the brains of this group." Then a payphone started to ring, and Max said, "They are in the underground phone lines." Then a lot of megawatts came out of the phone and caused a lot of destruction. Seeing the mayhem, the lady that works at the diner said, "Oh, now they have really did it." Naruto then looks at Gwen and Gwen said, "Naruto Uzumaki Tennyson, don't say a word." "Hey, I am just glad that the person who thinks she's perfect screwed up," Naruto said. Then there was an explosion from a store. The megawatts then went over to Hot Dog Diner and zipped around the giant hot dog on two of the diner before stopping, and all at once gave what seemed like a burp, which caused the citizens to cover their ears and the container that holds giant toothpicks to shatter and the toothpicks fall to the ground. When the sound stopped and everyone let go of their ears, Max looks up to see the toothpicks and, acting quick, said, "Everybody move," and everyone but the mayor got out the way. The mayor, who was still eating the popcorn, sat on the bench and none of the toothpicks hit him. Then he said, "There goes the world's largest toothpicks, oh the humanity," and the megawatts was laughing before zapping off. "Those creeps' idea of good clean fun is going to have us pushing up daisies," Max said. "Don't just stand there doofus, dial up some help," Gwen said, turning to look at Naruto. Naruto glanced at the Omnitrix and saw it was still red, said, "And what do you want M to do while the watch is still in recharge mode?" Showing the Omnitrix to Gwen, and who saw it was still red. Then they looked at the megawatt, who was doing something before scattering. Then he said, "Okay, what just happened?" I don't know, but I don't think it's going to be good whatever happens, Max said before there was an explosion, and the planetarium walked out. As the planetarium walked down the street, the diner lady walked up behind Max and said, "Well, there is something you don't see every day. They brought that planetarium exhibit to live. Come, we will head it off in the," Max said before stopping as he sees all the RV's wheels was off and lame with several faces written on it. Then he said, "Oh my." Naruto walks up beside Max and said, lame, that week I can this of something better in my sleep. And don't get me started in the grammar and the spelling hash," Gwen said. "I'll reckon they will head to the hydroelectric dam to power up and then wipe out the next town and so on and so on. They think it's funny. Yep, megawatts have a twisted sense of humor," the mayor said. Gwen, who was looking around before looking at the world's biggest fishbowl, and Naruto noticed and then smiles, and Gwen said, "You thinking what I'm thinking?" "Yeah, how much ramen can we make in that thing?" Naruto said before getting an elbow in the side, making him say, "Alright, now we show those prankster why they called me the prankster prince from hell." "Naruto, do your thing," Max said. "Right," Naruto said with a salute before running around the RV. Then after a few minutes the tires was back on and secured and the paint was also gone. Then he said, "All done now, I am going to go on ahead." When Naruto got to the dam, the megawatts wasn't there yet, so he said, "Guess I passed them." "How is that possible when they are piloting a planetarium?" Kurama said. "I guess I wasn't paying attention," Naruto said. "Again, how can you miss a planetarium?" Kurama said. "I have no idea," Naruto said. Later, with Max and Gwen arriving with the fishbowl, and Max said, "So who are things going here?" "The planetarium just arrived a few minutes ago and started to punch the dam," Naruto said. "That's great, you know what to do," Max said, and with a nod Naruto activated the Omnitrix and slammed it down, transforming into Heat Blast. Naruto then walked over to the edge and then fire at the planetarium, making it step back. Then Naruto, Heat Blast said, but the megawatts slammed its planets into the dam, causing it to crack, and water came though, making Naruto to ran down the dam's wall. BTU, as he was running he slipped, making him slide down the wall, and as he was sliding down something unexpected happened and he was now flying on a fireball. When Naruto got the bottom, he jumped of the fireball, then thinks, "Well, the two thing I learned about what my aliens do. Wonder if there is some sort of encyclopedia on the aliens," Rava said. "Now where would the fun in that be?" Kurama said. "Hey Naruto, isn't there something else that need your attention right now?" Rava said as he remembered about the dam. "Oh yeah, better seal the dam up," Naruto, Heat Blast said before he blasted the dam, all the while the planetarium was heading towards the cables. Then once the dam was sealed up, Naruto, Heat Blast launched himself into the air to cut the planetarium off. BTU, unfortunately the fireball lost its fire, making Naruto fall into a corridor access. Then he stumbled back a few steps before dropping to his knees. Then the planetarium walked up to him and then punched him, sending him across the walkway. While Naruto was in a daze, Gwen, who had a water hose, had stealthy walked up behind the planetarium, then said, "Hey mega wimps, do you want to see something that's really funny? You're all wet." Then she turned the hose on, spraying the water at the planetarium. Then as the planetarium was about to stomp on Gwen, she quickly dropped the hose and legged it. Naruto, who had gained his bearings, was now standing behind the planetarium with a large fireball, then said as the machine turned to face him, "What's the matter, can't take a joke?" Then he threw the ball at the planetarium, breaking it, making the megawatts come out. Then he said, "You really got burned with the last one, so do yourselves a favor and quite while you're behind, for I am the prankster prince from hell." Then the megawatts all zapped over to Naruto but missed him due to some smoke getting in the way. Then they heard Naruto, Heat Blast say, "Hey, where are you lot going? I am over here." Then they turned to see Naruto leaning against something, acting like he was bored and raging. The megawatts who then charged, but Naruto just went under the tarp with the alien batteries following. Max and Gwen, who was behind the tarp hiding from the megawatts, and Max said, "Naruto did it." Then he looked at Gwen and said, "They took the bait." Then he pulled the part to reveal a giant fishbowl filled with the megawatts. Naruto then sealed the bowl up, sealing the megawatts inside. Then he said, "Never try and outrank me." Then Max and Gwen walked up behind Naruto and Max said, "Good idea on using the fishbowl with non-conductive glass sealed you tight. Sparky and his pals would be going anywhere. Once again, science saves the day," Gwen said. "With a little help from science fiction," Naruto said, now turned back to normal. Later, as the town was being rebuilt, the Tennysons walked up to the mayor, who was now standing next to something that was covered up, and he said, "You folks done right by us. Well, we did set that thing loose, so it was the right thing to do, Naruto said. Hope this adventure wasn't a setback for Sparksville, Max said. More like a giant step forward. What with our new attraction, soon we will be racking them in, the mayor said as he pulled the cover to reveal a light bulb and said, with the biggest light bulb it will be a humdinger as long as folks mind the signs. Then he walks away so the Tennysons can see a sign. In case of emergency do not break glass, Naruto said. Kurama, who was now laughing, said, now that is a good one. It sure is, Naruto said before turning to face Midnight and asked, did you enjoy your time her girl? Which got a bark and a waggy tail in response, making Naruto said, that's good to hear, Nor, let's go and see what the next adventure will be. Then he turns and walks to the RV with Midnight right behind him. THSTA all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.